Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the best damn movie-related show on the planet Earth, the John Campea Show, coming to you from right here on my YouTube channel. I'm, of course, your host, John Campea. It's an awesome honor and privilege, as it is every day, to have you, my international friends, joining me as we talk about our favorite things in the world, movies and movie news and all sorts of good stuff. And we do have a lot of good stuff to talk about here today, guys. Matt Damon, Ben Affleck re-teaming on screen again for a movie that they wrote. We've seen that song and dance before, for something called The Duel. The Witcher trailer dropped. We haven't had a chance to talk about that yet. What did we think about that? Todd McFarlane is hitting some delays on his Spawn movie and a few other things more. But before we get to any of those things, I want to welcome the people joining me for today's delightful conversation. First of all, starting with the delightful Mr. Robert Meyer Burnett. Robert, how you doing, sir?
John, I'm doing good. I'm 4 episodes into the new Veronica Mars. I'm at the halfway point. Very excited about it.
I've still never seen a single episode of Veronica Mars.
So you're not a marshmallow?
No, I am not a marshmallow. But I've got a lot of friends, including my buddy Rodney back home, who just swears by the show. So I think I got to get on board with that. And also joining us on board the ship today is Erin Cummings. Erin, how you doing today?
My San Diego sunburn is now fading into a delightful tan, so I am feeling really nice today.
But apparently your husband's burn is still just a burn.
Oh, he is a lobster. Us Irish potatoes were French fries this weekend.
So we are all just getting back now from San Diego Comic-Con. Of course, we had a really good time. And I hope you guys had a wonderful weekend as well. But listen, before we get to our main topics today, let's go off the top with this. Now, we've been talking a lot about Netflix lately for different reasons. They're a little bit, they operate in a deficit. They spend lots of money. They put out an awful lot of content. But the other day we talked about the fact that for the first time ever, at least in forever, they had an actual decline in subscribers. I think 113 or 130,000 subscriber dip in the US ever. Now, worldwide, their subscribers still went up by about 2.4, 2.7 million, something like that. But that fell way short of their projected numbers that they were going to gain 5 million subscribers in the second quarter of the year, and they didn't. And well, the pseudo troubles of Netflix continue, as it's now being reported that a group of the shareholders are now filing a lawsuit against Netflix, saying that they violated certain laws, that they misrepresented what was going on. Here's one of the reports coming out of Verizon. It says at least 2 suits seeking class action standing were filed Monday by the Rosen Law Firm and Shaw Law Firm, which both specialize in investor litigation. The lawsuits allege Netflix violated SEC regulations by failing to disclose information about the Q2 shortfall, which precipitated a 13% drop in the company's stock. Now, they also go on to say that the company had named execs and said the company had named executives who they said knew that the public documents and statements issued or disseminated in the name of the company were materially false and misleading, which violated U.S. securities law. The law firm alleged that the lawsuit filed on July 22nd in the U.S. District Court for the Northern District of Carolina. Netflix did not respond to any for a request for a comment. All right. First of all, a couple things to keep in mind here. Number one, shareholders suing the companies that they're shareholders of. Nothing new. This is nothing new. This is actually kind of standard operating procedure. But it comes at a time, Rob, it seems to me, that Netflix, again, reporting the first loss of viewership in North America, the fact that it's very high profile, that they spend more money than they make right now, and maybe that's wise, but that's what they're doing right now. The fact that there is this dreadful thing coming down the highway in the form of HBO Max, in the form of Disney Plus, in the form of real stuff, a free service coming from NBC Universal, all that kind of stuff. They're losing Friends. They're losing The Office. It just seems to be yet another thing piling on. I got to imagine it's not a fun time to be around the offices and Netflix right now, Rob. How do you respond to all this?
I think you're right. And I think one of the things, look, I don't presume to know much about our banking laws or investing laws. I don't know. So I don't know about disclosures and things like that. But I would say that I think Netflix has been sketchy from the get-go. They don't release their numbers. You don't really know what's happening. And if you're an investor and you're just buying stock, let's say you're a day trader, or if you don't know about the entertainment business and aren't following trends, this idea that Netflix is about to, there's going to be a storm surrounding Netflix, whether it's Disney Plus, whether it's all the other streaming services, Warner Brothers, Universal, There's streaming services that affect their business, and they're not talking about that at all. I bet they're not disclosing that. They're not telling their investors, hey, we're going to lose Friends at the end of the year, which was one of our watched, because these aren't things that investors are even really looking at. Savvy investors who are following the entertainment industry might, but if, say you're a mom and pop investor in the Midwest and you don't follow entertainment trends, Netflix look like a great stock. But they have not been very communicative, certainly not in the public forums, about what's happening. And they're not stating what's happening. So I think this is just the beginning of a lot of trouble for Netflix.
Yeah, it's certainly, at least publicly, there's a lot, they're taking a lot of hits. Erin, do you think this is yet another black eye for them? Or do you think, look, really, this is big business. This is probably, at the end of the day, much ado about nothing. How do you see this?
No, I agree with Rob. I feel like this is a sweater that is just unraveling. Unraveling seems to be the word that keeps rattling around in my head when I'm hearing all of these stories. And also, bigger than unraveling is that it's a distraction. They're not focusing on making, they're not focusing on finding that new hit show that they're going to have. They're not focusing on development right now. They're not focusing on really being in front of the game, which is really what made Netflix so popular, was that they saw the future before other people did.
Yeah, they did.
And now they're so busy and scattered trying to deal with all of the drama that has been created that they're not looking at the future. And HBO Max is like, see ya, bye.
Yeah, and I love the fact that you brought up the distraction thing because, I love sports analogies, but seriously, in sports things, like when things are happening off court, teams will often talk about this is a distraction for the team, and distraction is a very real thing, even corporately. Like I remember when I was working with, like, say, AMC, and, we had this thing going on where this giant Chinese group was buying up a bunch of the company called Wanda. They were actually really good to work with, to be honest with you. But at the time, that had nothing to do with the shows we were doing or the videos we were making, but it was a constantly looming distraction, and it kind of affected the quality of our work. And I think it's a very astute observation. This is just another thing they don't need. It's another distraction they don't need right now. Maybe this will come and go again. This is not like this is anything new. Shareholders suing a company, what? Yeah, it happens all the time. But again, it just seems to be yet another thing piling on. What do you guys think about this? Jump down to the comments section below and let us know your thoughts. All right. One more thing off the top here before we get to our main topics. Vin Diesel has put together a big career. Obviously, Fast and the Furious, XXX, but one of the other franchises that he's put together is the Riddick franchise. Admittedly, I'm not a fan of the Riddick franchise, but a lot of my friends are, and I know a lot of you guys are as well. Well, in the midst of all the stuff going on with Fast and the Furious 9, he took time to put out on social media this little thing showing that he has now got his finished, completed script for Riddick 4, and if you're wondering how to pronounce that, it's just Fury. It's pronounced Fury. At least that's how his daughter pronounced it as he had her read it out. As we see here, there's Vin Diesel and his daughter holding up the new script, apparently that was written by David N. Toohey, who I think he worked on one of the original, or if not all the original Riddick films.
No, he wrote and directed them all.
He wrote and directed them all. There you go. And the little subline on it, everybody wants to be a beast until they need to do what real beasts do. Oof. Which it sounds like a Riddick kind of subtext there. I'll be honest with you. I thought the Riddick franchise was done. Now, granted, the last Riddick movie, when it came out, 2012, 2014, something like that.
Yeah.
The last Riddick movie came out, made almost $100 million, which is not much, but they made it for a very reasonable $38 million budget, which I think kind of pleased the studio. So we always knew there was possibility, but as the years have gone on, I thought this thing was done and gone. But apparently it's still something that Vin Diesel's keeping an eye on, going back again to the old franchises he used to work on. I'll be honest with you, I have no enthusiasm or excitement about this myself, Rob, to be, because again, I'm not a big fan of the previous Riddick films whatsoever, but I know a lot of people are. You're seeing this, number one. Do you think this will actually get made? Just because a script gets written doesn't really mean anything, but do you think it'll actually get made? Number two, is this something you would look forward to?
First of all, I love David Toohey. I go all the way. David Toohey he wrote Warlock with Julian Sands. He wrote the Charlie Sheen movie, The Arrival, that had Ron Silver, the alien invasion. He wrote and directed Below, which is, I think, it's a haunted submarine movie. I think David Twohy is the unsung. He picked up the mantle of like John Carpenter, doing a lot of these great. He started out writing and then he became a director. And I'm a huge fan of his. And he's written a lot of stuff. And I loved the Riddick franchise. I especially loved the Chronicles of Riddick. A lot of people don't. And the director's cut of Chronicles of Riddick, it's bonkers. I mean, the villains are called necromongers.
Yes.
I love the production design. Judi Dench is in it. She plays like an elemental.
Carl Urban's in it.
It's crazy. And David Twohy is, I think, one of the great unsung genre filmmakers of the last 30 years. I will watch anything he does. Bring back Riddick.
Erin, let me ask you, and look, the Riddick films, probably there's a lot of people watching this right now who are going, wait a minute, what are the Riddick films? I mean, really, because again, the last one didn't even make $100 million, but Erin, have you seen any of the Riddick films at this point?
Okay, admittedly, I have not. You're
not alone.
That being said, as you know, I worked with Vin Diesel on a small webisode series called The Ropes, and I have a profound amount of respect for Vin. He grew up with a theater background. He cultivated his own career. He made his own movies. When he couldn't get jobs, he flat out told me, he said, I came to Los Angeles, I couldn't get arrested. I went back to New York. I got my friends who had a bagel company to give us craft services. We made our own movie. His movies ended up, getting him the attention of Steven Spielberg. This is a guy who has clawed his way to his position in Hollywood. And he's also really, really smart as a business person, because I have no doubt that him bringing back the Chronicles of the Riddick franchise is also going to coincide with his video game company that he started, Tygon Studios. This is probably going to intersect with a new video game that's going to come out. And I mean, he's a very smart man who doesn't get that credit, because I think people just associate him as like the big bad tough guy in the Fast franchise. But if you go back and you read his story, he is so much more than that. And I'm really excited to see how he's going to connect this with the other things that he has going on in his brand.
Can I just point out, Pitch Black still remains one of the great sci-fi horror. That's the first of the Riddick movies.
That's right.
And that was his first video game.
Yes, they made a video game for the Riddick franchise and an animated film as well.
I didn't know they did.
An animated short,
really?
I think. Yeah.
I don't remember that. Well, anyway, the question here, guys, is now to you. What do you think about this? Do you think at some point he's actually going to do another Riddick film? And if so, are you on board for that, or do you really have no interest? Jump down in the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that out of the way, let's now move on to our main topics today. How do we select our main topics here on the John Campea Show? Well, it's really rather easy. See, you guys come up with our main topics by submitting your topics to me over at www.thejohncampeashow.com/contact. Once you get over there, fill out the form with your topic or question, hit submit, and maybe, just maybe, you might see your topic or question featured here on the John Campea Show. So let's get right in to main topic number 1. And our first main topic today gets sent in to us from Peter Vincenti, who writes, "Greetings, show crew. I was sort of surprised that we didn't hear anything from the Marvel panel about Avengers 5. But then when asked about it, Kevin Feige said in an interview that they have their plans for Avengers 5 and that the team will look very different from the original one. Who do you think will end up on this new Avengers team? And when do you think we're going to hear an official announcement about it?" All right, thanks a lot for the question, man. And yeah, a lot of people were a little bit surprised by some of the things at the Marvel panel that weren't brought up and mentioned. No mention of the next Spider-Man film. No mention of Guardians of the Galaxy 3. And most obvious by its absence was no mention of an Avengers 5. Now, Kevin Feige was interviewed by MTV shortly after that, and this is the specific comment that he said that the topic is referring to. Kevin Feige said this when asked about if there's going to be an Avengers 5 and if he knows what that is going to be. Kevin Feige said yes, and it will be a very different team than we've seen before. That's what Endgame was all about. It will be a very different incarnation of the team with some people you've already met and some people we haven't met yet. So this kind of stands out to me, Rob, as a situation of Kevin Feige very specifically said about the Marvel panel that they just were going to talk about 2020 and 2021. They clearly have plans, because Kevin Feige has said for a while that he's got his plans for the MCU for the next 5 years. So the fact that they only decided to focus on 2020 and 2021, we talked about that the other day. That's why I think they didn't mention Spider-Man, because maybe they're not just going to have a Spider-Man in 2020 or 2021, where you actually have a Spider-Man film in the theaters right now as we're speaking. So it's not ludicrous to believe. And by the way, Marvel's got its plate kind of full. They got 10 major properties coming out in 2 years. So their plate's a little bit full right now. I do believe that we're going to get an Avengers 5 announcement. No insider information, but at D23. I think he's going to talk about that. But Rob, you're hearing him to discuss and talk about, we're going to have some new faces and we're going to have some faces you recognize. Do you think, but emphasizing very different team, do you think this is the right direction to go? Who do you think are some of the people that could pop up on this? And do you think we may actually get an Avengers 5 announcement coming in 2022 or 2023 at D23 next month? What do you think?
I don't. Well, that's a lot. I think, first of all, I think that, to make one of these movies, you're really looking at a Marvel film takes 2 years to make. Now, they know for a fact that these are what they're going to make in the next 2 years. Black Widow's probably close to being wrapped. They're going to start Eternals soon. They're going to roll in. They've got Doctor Strange and the new Thor, which I'm sure they're going to begin production on in the next 6 months, probably. So they were telling us exactly what's already in the pipeline. But that means that within the next year, Phase 5, I guess he said Phase 4 was going to be over with these 10 releases.
Yeah, Phase 3 was 2 years long or 4 years long. Phase 4 apparently is 19 months.
I think that we're going to not see an Avengers announcement yet, because I think they're going to wait till they get more into what would be Phase 5, and Avengers is what's going to end Phase 5, because Phase 5 is going to be introducing more of these characters that we don't know yet. And there's going to be some, I think, introduced in the series that we haven't. I don't know. Like I'll bet you in the Loki series we might see Kang the Conqueror. I could see somebody. I think they're going to set up the next Avengers villain in whatever is happening in the next 2 years. We're going to get a taste of that. Kang could be in the Doctor Strange film. Kang could be in the series, like Loki, something, because there's probably time travel involved. I would imagine there would have to be. Who knows? But that's what I would say is they're going to set up Kang. That's my big guess for Avengers 5. I don't know in terms of heroes who they're going to bring in, but I mean, what they're doing to me is so ambitious. For them to come out and say, here are the 10 things that we're making. It's not like a studio that makes comedies and dramas and romances and whatever. This is 10 properties that are all in the MCU that are advancing the storyline. I mean, it's one long storyline that's been going on for 23 films. Spider-Man is about to cross $1 billion.
Yeah.
So is Aladdin, by the way. I mean, it's unbelievable how much money these movies are making. So for them to come out like this, I mean, the ambition blows me away, and I'm really excited.
Erin, do you think that maybe Marvel, had a little bit of a missed opportunity at Comic-Con? Do you think maybe they're just saving it up for their own big event at Disney D23 next month? Or do you think, like Rob thinks right here, and that, they're probably just going to sit on an Avengers 5 announcement for now? What do you think?
Well, I think that it's actually very smart of them not to announce it at Comic-Con, because they have so many other exciting things that are going on. And let's be honest, with the fervor of the Avengers brand, that is going to be the big takeaway. And so why would you want to cloud any of the other exciting stories about things that are going to be more timely?
That's a great observation. It could have overshadowed all the other great stuff.
Exactly. Everybody walks away from Hall H going, oh my God, Avengers 5. But what about all the stuff that's happening next year? I also, when Kevin Feige gave that little Easter egg of some we haven't met yet, I have no doubt that over the course of the next 10 films, they're going to be keeping a close eye to see which characters really pop. Who are some of the characters that are maybe not as developed in, Thor or Loki or what in those storylines but that audiences really respond to, that they go, you know what, maybe we need to bring them a little bit more up front in Avengers. I really think that Avengers, we're going to see some smaller characters or some periphery characters in these next 10 films. The ones who pop, the ones that audiences really respond to, those are the ones that are going to get called up to the major leagues.
I think right now, first of all, I think it was a great observation about the fact that they didn't want to overshadow everything else, which I think is something they don't have to worry about at D23. So I still think they're going to do that there. As far as who you're going to have on there, I think it's very, very wise for Feige to say it's going to be a mixture. It's going to be very different, but it's going to be a mixture of the people we know and people we haven't seen. Because if they just came out and say, ladies and gentlemen, Avengers 5 with Squirrel Girl and so-and-so and so-and-so, I think that would turn a lot of the audience on. But however, I think if you anchor it with, say, ladies and gentlemen, Thor is going to be, and not Jane Thor, I mean Thor, maybe an Ant-Man. And if you can just have a couple of those really recognizable characters as your anchor for the audience, then it becomes a lot easier for it to introduce Master of Kung Fu, Shang-Chi is going to be in the Avengers now. We have Hawkeye's daughter is in the Avengers now. We have whoever. So it's easier to put that together as long as you anchor it with a couple of recognizable faces. And I'm sure Spider-Man will be in the Avengers as well. And then move forward from there. I still do think they're going to make that announcement at D23 because I think Disney is so all in on D23. Look, it's no secret. Disney wants to divorce itself from Comic-Con. They would really rather not depend on Comic-Con. They're taking advantage of it as they can right now. They saw an opportunity here with Warner Brothers not being there, with Sony not being there, whatever. They went in and they did. They owned Comic-Con. Like all of Comic-Con before Saturday was just a build up to Saturday, and then Saturday happened. Is like that's all everybody's talking about. But I really do think they want to make D23 their true home because it's their event and that they control. And they've done a really good job, honestly, in the past with their D23 stuff. So we'll have to wait and see. The question here, guys, though, is do you think they're going to make an Avengers 5 announcement anytime soon? Do you agree with Rob that it's probably going to happen sometime in Phase 5? Do you agree with me that probably, but it's going to be announced, or maybe it won't be announced? Who do you think is going to be on the team? Jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, with that down, let's move on to the second main topic today. And our second main topic today is sent to us from Kevin Hammerreich, who writes, "Hey, John, thanks for the show." Well, thank you, Kevin. "You have no idea how great it is to have a place to hang out and talk movies every day. Anyway, I'm a Tarantino fan and I love the Kill Bill movies. Just saw that he said he and Uma Thurman have been discussing doing Kill Bill 3. Do you think this could actually happen as his last movie? And do you think that it's not too late to pull something like this off?" All right, thanks a lot for that, Kevin. And yes, Quentin Tarantino, who has been talking a lot about several things. Number one, that his next movie after Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is going to be his last movie. And the other 6 things he's been talking about are the 6 or 7 other movies that film's going to be, whether it's Star Trek or whatever. But here's the comment that he made that's raised a lot of eyebrows in the last couple of days. Here's what Quentin Tarantino said. He said, "Me and Uma Thurman have talked about it recently," talking about Kill Bill 3, "have talked about it recently. Frankly, to tell you the truth, I have thought about it a little bit further. We were talking about it literally last week. If any of my movies were going to spring from my other movies, it would be a third Kill Bill." And it's interesting that he used those words because one of the reasons that a lot of us has probably thought he wouldn't do a Kill Bill 3 is because he doesn't seem to be a sequel kind of guy. Despite, his interest in doing a Star Trek film, whatever, he doesn't really seem to be a sequel kind of guy. But I know a lot of people have been very excited about the notion of a Kill Bill 3. A lot of people have been dying for a Kill Bill 3. They would love to see Uma Thurman back doing something like that. Could that movie actually be his last? And again, you know me, I don't think he's going to stop at 10. I think he thinks he's going to stop at 10, but I don't think he's going to stop at 10. But if in his mind that the 10th is his last, I just don't know if Kill Bill 3 is going to be it. I really don't. I think he's got, from everything he's been saying lately, it sounds like he's got a real attachment to this whole Star Trek idea and whatever. So I think I'd be intrigued, but I just don't know that that's actually going to happen. Erin, you're hearing his comments. Do you think he could actually go back and do a Kill Bill 3? Now, I know what everybody's saying. Well, man, you said he does sequels, but there's Kill Bill 1 and 2. Kill Bill was shot as one film, and then the Weinsteins decided to chop it into 2 films. So that doesn't really count. But Erin, do you think this could actually happen? Could we see a Kill Bill 3? And then beyond that, do you think it would actually be a good idea or a bad idea to do it?
Well, my first response to this was surprised because, Quentin and Uma had that very public conflict.
Yes,
so
they did.
my first response was, "Oh, good, mommy and daddy made up." I was very excited about that because I was not happy when I saw it, because I really like the two of them together. I think they have incredible director-actor chemistry. I really like how they work together, and how he was very he really promoted her in an Oscar campaign. I just really like them together, and I love the idea of a third Kill Bill. I love the first two. And here's the deal. I get it. Whatever. It was shot as one and then they cut up into two, blah, blah, blah. Yes, he's not a sequel kind of guy, but I think he very could be a trilogy kind of guy where he wants to wrap up. That's what I hear, is he's not going to do a Reservoir Dogs 2 because that is a legit sequel. He's not going to do a Pulp Fiction 2. That's a legit sequel. I can see a Kill Bill 3 only as a trilogy wrap up where it brings the whole story full circle.
Right.
And I would be really excited about this because my very dear friend Zoe Bell, who I literally just talked to on the phone yesterday, was Uma Thurman's stunt double in Kill Bill 1 and 2 and has since gone on to have roles in Quentin Tarantino's movies, including Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. And so I would be really excited for her to be able to be working on that as well.
Rob, how do you see all this?
Well, the thing about Kill Bill is they killed Bill. I mean, he's dead. She used the 5-finger, exploding heart trick. But I love the Kill Bill movies. But I could see them bringing back the Beatrice character, the bride character, in another movie, because there's the Quentin Tarantino sort of universe where you have the different characters. They've even spilled out into other people's movies. Like
Everybody always wanted Vega Brothers movie.
Yeah, there was going to be a Vega Brothers movie, and if you watch True Romance or you've seen Natural Born Killers, they've got connections to the Quentin Tarantino verse. So I could see that possibly happening. But because I know I'd love to see Uma Thurman and Quentin Tarantino work together again. And I like Zoe Bell a lot, too. She was obviously starred in Death Proof. And then I edited a movie that she was in.
Oh, nice.
And I really enjoyed her. I got to meet her and hang out with her.
Great.
She's delightful. But I would like to see him he's an auteur. He's a writer-director. And I want him to write something that we haven't seen before. Put her character in it. But I would love to see, if he's only going to make 10 movies, I want to see an original Quentin Tarantino film where he can take his characters, bring Beatrice back, bring Uma Thurman back. Hell, bring Uma Thurman and bring Zoe Bell's character back from Death Proof. And put them in the same movie together. And do something like that. And something we haven't seen before, something where he goes out, some phantasmagorical Quentin
Tarantino universe Avengers sort of thing.
Yes,
Bring them all into one big thing.
With all of his predilections, lots of foot fetishing and lots of just craziness, Hollywood references,
Totally.
A history that's changed. I mean, I don't know what it would be, but some giant, epic, balls to the wall Tarantino fest. That's what I want.
Oh, I love that. And Steve Buscemi all day, every day.
Yeah, as 3 different characters. Listen,
Yes.
guys, question is, what do you think about this? Do you think Quentin Tarantino's serious? Do you think he's really honestly considering doing a Kill Bill 3 as his 10th film? Do you think maybe this is just something he's exploring but not really would happen? Would you rather see him do a Kill Bill 3 instead of a Star Trek or something original like Rob's talking about? Jump down in the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, with that down, let's move on to our third main topic today. And our third main topic today gets sent in to us from Ali M, who writes, "Greetings and salutations, Mr. C. Many of us got excited when we heard that another Spawn movie, well, I'm glad some of you were, that another Spawn movie was coming from the creator himself, Todd McFarlane. But then, nothing's happened in ages. Read today that the money people are holding it up because they're not getting on board with his vision. Don't you think they should just trust the creator and get on board? Why do they have to try to exert control over the man's character and property? Thank you, and bring on the filthy." All right, thanks a lot for that, Ali M. And yeah, as we've talked about this, oh gosh, I feel like it's been over a year now, that Todd McFarlane, the creator of the Spawn comic book, had decided he was going to write and direct his own Spawn movie. And he got a couple of high-profile people. He got Jamie Foxx to sign up. He got Jeremy Renner to sign up to be in it, all that kind of stuff. And everything seemed to be moving forward. And then, dead silence. We haven't heard anything about it in a while. Well, now Todd McFarlane, good Canadian kid, by the way, has come out and he's explained why there's been a holdup. And here's what Todd McFarlane had to say. The money's sitting on the sidelines ready to go. I just need to get everybody that wants to put in money to share their heads to shake their heads to the same script. As you can imagine, everyone has a slightly different version of it in their head. You just go and trying to appease a handful of people while not giving in to what it is that I'm trying to do myself. Because if I have to change it too much, I'll just walk away from it all. So basically what it sounds like here is Todd McFarlane wants to make this movie. By the way, he hasn't got the slightest clue of how to make a movie. Just want to throw that out there. Good Canadian kid, but he doesn't have the slightest clue on how to make a movie. But he wants to make this movie. He's got people ready to fund it, but he can't get everybody on board with his vision for the movie. As Ali is asking, should these people with the purse strings be ready just to get on board with whatever Todd McFarlane wants to do? And I'll tell you what my answer to that is, hell no. Hell no. Look, if I'm the guy with the money, and it's my money, and you come to me asking me to give you money so you can make your movie, I want to know a couple of things. I want to know, number one, that this is going to be good and could potentially make us some money. If I'm going to give you my money to do it, I want to make sure I'm going to get my money back and a little bit on top. And the reality here is Todd is a guy who hasn't got the first idea about how to make a film. He knows how to make comic books. Hell yes, he does. But he's never directed a film before. You know, X-Men, Dark Phoenix, anybody? I mean, he's never made a film before. Now, granted, this isn't going to be a $200 million film. But look, I got to tell you what, I know everybody wants to go, yes, the purity of the creator's vision and all that kind of stuff. Well, that's great. Then pay for it your damn self. Because if somebody else has got to put up their money and their neck on the line and their financial future on the line, they're going to want to make sure, and so would you, you're going to want to make sure that everything is being done to give this movie the best chance of success. And if you're dealing with a creator and a filmmaker who has never made a film before, there's going to be some apprehension. Now, for all I know, Rob, all these other people are being idiots. For all I know, Todd McFarlane's got a great movie idea. It's wonderful. It'll be commercially successful. It'll be artistically fulfilling and all that kind of stuff. And maybe just these money people are idiots and don't know what they're talking about and they're just being difficult. That's a possibility here too. But I got to tell you, Rob, I am not surprised in the least to hear that there's a holdup. It's like, really? Comic book creator who just wants to make the movie himself and pull up some money, and there's being some creative differences? You don't say. I'm not surprised to hear this at all. Again, I'm not saying Todd's in the wrong. I'm not saying the money people are in the wrong. I'm just saying this doesn't surprise me in the least. And for Todd to kind of beat his chest and go, if they don't get on board with my vision, I'm just going to walk away. If I'm the money guy, I'm probably, bye. I mean, if you don't want to take my money to make a movie that we think can work right, okay. Bye. I mean, it's everybody is an expert on how to spend other people's money. Everyone is an expert on how to spend other people's money. But look, I'm not saying who's in the wrong here. I'm just saying I'm not surprised to hear that there's a creative clash going on. Rob, you're hearing about this. You know, I'm sure you've probably seen many situations like this. How do you respond to this story?
Well, first of all, it's not like the Spawn franchise has a storied history in Hollywood.
This is true.
We had one movie that was basically the Hellboy movie that just came out. That was the first Spawn movie. And it was kind of a disaster, really. And the animated series was cool. I thought the animated series was really good. I have the first 100 issues of the Spawn comic. I bought them as they came out. I just don't know if Spawn really lends itself to the movie-going audience in this day and age. I don't know if Spawn is actually the best character. If you've got money and you have as many comic book characters to make movies out of as we have today, would Spawn be your first choice? I don't know.
Well, I mean, we are looking right now in an era where every other studio, guys, is probably desperately looking for how they can get on this comic book movie train. And there's only so much to go around.
Right.
Because the two big suppliers, DC and Marvel, they're spoken for over at Disney and Warner Brothers. So you're looking for other things. So I can see the appeal. Because look, Spawn is a recognizable IP name. I mean, Rob, you got the 100 issues, right? It's you name Spawn.
And many action figures.
And great action figures, by the way.
Yep.
Wonderful. Seriously, as much as it sounds like I'm slagging on Todd McFarlane, the way Todd McFarlane has shepherded his own IP with this thing, movies aside, it's nothing short of revolutionary. what he did. And if you go back and read his story about how he was in the main comic book system, kind of a little bit of a revolt and rebellion that he was one of the head guys of, really going out on his own, making a big successful comic book outside of the main comic book titles. I mean, it's inspiring stuff. So I don't know. Erin is somebody who's worked in movies and television, been around the creative field and all that kind of stuff. I'm sure you've seen situations like this. Do you think this is something that's out of the ordinary? And do you think they can get over this and actually get this movie made?
Well, my first instinct is always to put the suits on mute. Because, I mean, I've just been in so many situations, whether it's on network or in cable. And I remember distinctly having a conversation with Stephen S. DeKnight, the creator of Spartacus, and asking him, do you prefer network or cable? And he said, ultimately cable, because you as a creator have a lot more control. And you don't have to listen to show notes from somebody that got a general business degree and doesn't have a creative bone in their body. A lot of times on these phone calls, everybody's just trying to earn their paycheck. And so even if they love everything that's going on, they feel like they need to add their own. Well, what if she had red hair? Well, what if he was wearing a blue tie? You know, everybody feels like they need to give some input. So I'm usually on the side of the creator. That being said, the role of a director is not just knowing what camera angles and how to, you know, coerce an actor into crying. It's also about cultivating a community and bringing everyone together. There's a lot of personalities on a set, and this raises some red flags when I hear it, because I go, all right, if you're going to take that very public stance of saying, well, it's my way or the highway, then that is indicative of how you will be as a director on set. And you cannot be a my way or the highway director on set and not expect to have any production problems. So what I would encourage him to do is to really sit down and figure out a compromise, because ultimately, you know, they are taking a huge risk on a first-time filmmaker. And maybe there's a possibility, I don't know what his contract says, but there's even a possibility they might say, how about this? We'll take the script, but you're not going to direct it, and we're going to have someone do a rewrite on it. I see that happen all the time. So I would encourage him, if he wants to make this movie, to find a compromise and not dig his heels in the sand. You know, make the movie that you want to make, but figure out where you have your wiggle room and understand that the people who are paying for it, they're going to have some opinions too, and you just got to figure out which ones are the ones to listen to.
Now, of course, the money people can't take this away from him. He owns Spawn. But
okay, so there's no way. Okay.
Yeah, there's no out there, but everything you're saying too. And Rob, to what Erin was just saying, you've often talked about how basically one of the jobs of a director on a set is to also kind of be a diplomat in some ways. And you got to be able to pull these things together. Like, I know you've worked on films. I've heard like a lot of diplomacy needs to be done behind the camera to get it done. And I don't know if going out publicly and saying, and throwing the money guys under the bus and saying, I mean, he worded it nicely. He did. But still, the bottom line message of the statement was, these money guys aren't getting on board with my vision. And if they don't, I'm going to walk. That's basically how it comes across. I don't know if that's good diplomacy. Like, isn't that a little counterproductive, Rob?
Well, look, you want to please your money people, because if your money people are pleased, then you get to make more movies. and one of the great joys of being on a set is basically you're like the president of a country. You're leading by your example, and what you have to know how to do as a director is to utilize all the resources that your country has, bring them all together, inspire your troops, and they will get behind you because you're all working to make something that's greater than the sum of its parts, which is the TV show or the movie that you're working on. So that's part of it. And you have to have an attitude. You have to have an attitude of collaboration. The first and foremost, when you're making anything, any kind of filmed entertainment, because everybody, all of these moving parts are vital to the success of whatever it is that you're doing. Beginning with the money people. That's where it all begins. You have to get the money to get all these other great people on set to achieve that vision that you hopefully have. So, you know, when you're publicly dissing on the people that maybe will finance your movie, you're kind of dead in the water.
Yeah, here's hoping.
Unless there's things we don't already know.
Right. Well, which is always nine times out of 10 is usually the case. So here's hoping they were able to pull this together. What do you guys think about these comments? Are you surprised that there was delays on this? Do you think they're going to be able to get all their ducks in a row and get this thing finally made? Are you even interested in a Spawn movie? Jump down to the comment section below and let me know your thoughts. All right. With that down, let's move on to the fourth main topic today. And our fourth main topic today gets submitted to us from Edison Nestor, who writes, "It almost sounds too good to be true, but I just saw on Twitter that Matt Damon and Ben Affleck are going to act in a movie together being directed by Ridley Scott. It's something of a period piece, I think, set in France, which sounds a little weird for a Damon and Affleck movie, but they wrote it together. I'm all about this. What do you think?" Rob, it's crazy to think about the ultimate Hollywood bromance, Matt Damon, Ben Affleck. They really don't do a lot of on-screen collaborations together. They haven't written a lot of scripts together. Of course, we all know they won an Academy Award together writing, why am I freezing on the name of the one?
Good Will Hunting.
Good Will Hunting, thank you. They won an Academy Award for that. And Matt Damon, the last time he worked with Ridley Scott, we got one of the best movies of the past 7 years in The Martian. I love The Martian desperately. Doing together on this period piece. Apparently it's going to be set in 14th century France, where these two best friends, one goes off to war, and when he comes back, his wife tells him that his best friend had raped her. And they go to the king, and he demands a duel with this guy, and apparently it was the last duel ever done in France, hence the title, The Last Duel. Anyway, Rob, you're hearing about this. What do you make of the sounds of this?
Well, first of all, Ridley Scott's first movie, his first feature film, was called The Duelists, and it stars Keith Carradine.
I didn't know that was his first one.
That was his first feature, pre-Alien. It's unbelievably beautiful, a beautiful film. He took all of his commercial work, and this is in the 70s. This predates Alien, so I think it's 77 it came out. But it's Keith Carradine and Harvey Keitel. And it's about these two guys that have this relationship where they get together over the course of decades, I guess, and have these duels, and because they're rivals. And to me, it was like, wow, it's like Ridley Scott going full circle in his career, because The Duelist, it's one of the most beautiful movies you'll ever see, and it takes place in France, all over the French countryside, and I loved it. I love The Duelists, and this. I'm like, I guess he wants to go back to his roots, bring his career full circle. I thought this was a wacky idea for Affleck and Damon to do, but again, it plays off their relationship that we've seen both publicly and, of course, in private life. They've been friends for years and years and years. So the three of these guys coming together to make this, I think it sounds pretty cool. I mean, I'd go see that.
Yeah, I think it sounds cool too. And to your point, though, at first I was like, wow, this... If you say to me that Affleck and Damon were doing a movie together, a 14th century France film is not it. And a buddy might say, well, what do you want? You want to make another movie where they're just buddies hanging out in the neighborhoods of Boston? I'm like, kinda. I might kind of be down for that. But this sounds great to me anywhere. Erin, you're hearing about this project. You got Ridley Scott on board directing. How does this appeal to you?
I love it, because that was my first concern when I heard that Ben Affleck and Matt Damon were together. I was like, another Boston movie, okay, which they're great. Like, you know, The Town and Good Will Hunting, like, love them, fantastic. But what I really am excited about is Ben Affleck and Matt Damon have this kind of storybook friendship in Hollywood that you really don't see that often. You know, you see people who are best friends when they first start their careers, but one person's trajectory goes a little higher. And these two guys, you know, at one point, I mean, Bennifer, remember that craziness?
Oh, yes.
He was the biggest star on the planet, and Matt Damon was a little bit more, you know, hiding in the shadows and just working on his work. And they've really gone back and forth as far as their popularity increasing and decreasing, but their friendship seems to have maintained through that. They've never had any public drama, which I think is fantastic. And they have a very natural chemistry with one another that really lends itself to this story. You know, forget about the period, that's, you know, costumes and affectation. That's not, it's really about the chemistry of these two actors working together, which I think is going to be beautiful. And in Ridley Scott's more than capable hands, I'm very excited about this film.
You know, John, I guess I would say that upon hearing about this movie that I like them apples.
How you like them apples?
Ay.
Sorry.
One of the most enduring things going to that how do you like them apples thing. One of the best things I've ever seen on late night talk show television, I believe it was Kimmel, when Ben Affleck came out and it looked like he was wearing a giant fat suit. And he came waddling out and sat down, and then he opened the jacket of the suit, and it was Matt Damon under his jacket in like a baby harness, whatever, to sneak up. It was one of the coolest things I've ever seen on late night TV. I love these guys together. I really hope as they're, rounding into, let's say, even if we're breaking it down into 4 quarters of their career, I think it's safe to say they're midway through the 3rd quarter of their careers right now. I would love to see them start doing more stuff together because I think the people want Damon and Affleck stuff. I'm down for it. I want to see it, and I love the sounds of this. And you're throwing in the Ridley Scott. Cannot go wrong. Guys, what do you think about the sound of the last Duel? Jump down in the comments section below and let us know your thoughts. All right. With that down, let's move on now to our final main topic of the day. And our final main topic today is submitted to us by Brandon Pinchbeck, who writes, "Hey, John and crew. Of all the good stuff we've had from Comic-Con last weekend, my favorite would have to be the Witcher trailer. What are your thoughts on the trailer? Stay classy." All right, Rob, listen. We've been talking for a while about The Witcher. Both, of course, the big news drop that Henry Cavill was going to be playing it, the Netflix series. Of course, it's a celebrated, not just video game series, which is what most people know it as, but it's also a book series, all that kind of stuff. And now the first trailer has dropped, and we didn't have a chance to talk about it yesterday because there was like a million other things to talk about. But Rob, you had a chance to watch this first trailer for The Witcher. Do you think it lives up to the potential and the heights that a lot of us are hoping this thing can be?
In a word, yes. I mean, it's lavishly produced. I was talking to Erin that Henry Cavill looks more jacked than he was in Superman.
I love Henry Cavill.
I mean, talk about somebody who looks like he can wield a sword. It looks amazing. The characters look amazing. I like the... I don't know exactly the plot, how it all unfurls. The only criticism I have of this, and based on the trailer, is that medieval fantasy projects... Are we reaching peak medieval fantasy? Is it time to sort of retire that? Are people, after Game of Thrones has gone away, and we've still got everything from, well, the Shannara Chronicles, which are gone now, right? But
yeah,
we've got everything else. I'm getting a little... I want to go into the future more. The Middle Ages look dirty to me. I just... does anybody ever take showers and baths?
No,
and it's just, at the end of the day, I like really clean, technologically advanced places to live.
I think that's the T-shirt of the day. That looks dirty to me.
But it looks cool. It looks beautifully produced. I'm totally in. I mean, it's The Witcher. It's Henry Cavill. Why not? But man, I just don't want to live there.
Erin, you had a chance to watch this trailer. What do you think? First of all, Henry Cavill, the addition to this. Do you think this looks appealing to an audience member?
Yes. But first of all, I can't stop. I'm totally with Rob on the dirtiness of it all. When we were watching Game of Thrones, Tom would always be like, "Oh my God, wouldn't you love to live in this time?" And have you seen the women on? No, I would not want to. Anyway, I'm intrigued by it. Yes, Henry Cavill looks like he ate himself, and all of his former self went into his biceps. He is massive. He clearly did a lot of work. Given that this does have the video game franchise behind it, I think that the fight scenes are there's an expectation of the fight scenes to be at a really peak level, and I think that they will probably live up to that. I'm sure they put a lot behind it. It looks incredibly expensive, so clearly they've put a lot of money into this. And my only concern would be, is it coming so soon on the heels of Game of Thrones that people are going to compare it to Game of Thrones in such a way that it won't be able to live up? But I'm intrigued. I'm very interested.
The one thing I think it's got going for it is that, yeah, on a still image, it looks very similar to Game of Thrones. I think The Witcher's a lot more fantasy than
Yes.
even a Game of Thrones was. Hey, John, White Walkers, dragons, I know, but I think The Witcher is even more of a
Oh,
fantasy
you
genre.
mean the spider that crawled out of the lake? I was like, Rob, I go, what if this is
I
a
forgot
trend?
about that for you.
If
Maybe
this is a trend happening in film and television, I might just have to go live in a yurt because I can't handle that. But otherwise, yes, I agree with you. A lot more fantasy. But I do think that given the dirtiness of it all, there's going to be a natural inclination for people to compare it just by the
there will.
initially. And then it'll find its own footing, hopefully, if it's given the chance.
I'm going to admit,
I'm gonna go live in a yurt.
yurt. There's 2 T-shirts for today. I admit I was a bit underwhelmed by it. Now, people think underwhelmed instantly means negative, and that's not true. I thought it was a solid trailer. I thought it was good. I guess to an unfair degree, I was expecting to have my socks blown off, and that's not fair. I mean, having the skyest of sky-high expectations isn't realistic, and it isn't fair, because it's probably a very, very solid trailer, and I just let my expectations get in the way of it. It looked a little bit more smaller scale. You know what I mean? It felt a little bit like a TBS show, as opposed to a more, again, my problem, because I'm thinking so high expectations, something on a Lord of the Rings scale. You know, almost like a battle at wherever, whether it's Helm's Deep or... The thing is, it felt a little bit smaller, a little bit more intimate than I was expecting. And I think maybe if I give myself a chance to, readjust my expectations a bit and look at it for what it is, I'll probably enjoy it a little bit more. But my initial reaction was just a little bit more tempered. But still, Henry Cavill, the source material, I'm excited about this. High fantasy on Netflix. I'm excited as long as they don't get sued out of existence between now and then. I'm very excited about the project, but I just got to admit, the trailer itself didn't do much to increase my excitement, but I'm already pretty excited, so we'll see how it goes. Question is, what did you guys think about that trailer for The Witcher? Did it meet your expectations? Did it exceed your expectations? Were you like me and your response was a little bit more tempered? Jump down in the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys, with all the main topics out of the way, we're going to take some of your live questions. But before we get to those live questions, there are a bunch of other things going on in the world of movies and entertainment that we quite frankly don't have time to go in depth on. But I want to make sure you're caught up to date with what's happening. So now, Fact Checker Jonathan proudly presents to you today's installment of the Movie News Feed. Check it out. Okay.
First up, Linda Hamilton hasn't appeared in a Terminator film since 1992's Terminator 2 Judgment Day. That's about to change with this year's Terminator Dark Fate, which will see Hamilton once again playing the ass-kicking Sarah Connor. From Slash Film, it was a big deal to Hamilton to be playing Connor again, and she took it seriously. The actress recently revealed she flat out refused to say certain lines in the script that were intended to soften her character. Hamilton said the following: "In terms of approach, Tim Miller wanted her relatable. That was the word he used. And I was like, Sarah Connor has never been relatable. She was relatable in the first movie as a nice waitress, but what do you mean relatable? You are trying to make her softer?" I just knew that with the time that had passed, and as her situation changed, she ain't relatable. But I would go, nope, I'm not saying that. And a couple of times I was like, I am not saying that. That's stupid. I have always been empowered to say those things, but I just have never been that person. I just care so intensely about this character that I had to step up and toe the line about what felt right and what didn't feel right. Terminator Dark Fate opens November 1st, 2019. Next up, Sean Hayes will serve as roast master of Comedy Central's previously announced roast of Alec Baldwin in September. The network announced yesterday. From Deadline, in the announcement, Comedy Central noted that Baldwin and Comedy Central will contribute a combined $1 million in matching $500,000 donations to Exploring the Arts, a nonprofit organization serving public high schools throughout New York City and Los Angeles. The Baldwin roast will premiere on Comedy Central Sunday, September 15th. Next up, the CW shared a handful of new details about its highly anticipated Crisis on Infinite Earths crossover at Comic-Con. From ComingSoon.net, among other announcements, it was confirmed that Tyler Hoechlin would be back as the Arrowverse's Clark Kent and Superman. Now, it's been reported that Elizabeth Tulloch will indeed be reprising her role as Lois Lane later this year. Hoechlin won't be the only Man of Steel who shows up for the upcoming Crisis. Brandon Routh, who normally plays the Atom in the Arrowverse, revealed that he'll be sporting an outfit inspired by Superman's Kingdom Come costume. Next up, it was clear from opening weekend that simply being another massive Marvel Cinematic Universe hit wasn't going to be good enough for Avengers Endgame. The film had its sights set on becoming the highest grossing movie of all time. From CinemaBlend, While it wasn't always clear that the movie would reach that goal, Endgame became the biggest movie of all time over the weekend. Not to be a spoiled sport, the official Avatar Twitter account has posted a congratulations to Marvel. James Cameron himself signed the note to the movie that finally, after a decade, toppled Avatar as the highest-grossing movie in the world. The image shows Iron Man experiencing the wonder that is Pandora. And finally, the upcoming Lord of the Rings series at Amazon has made its first casting decision. From Variety, Markella Cavanaugh of Picnic at Hanging Rock is in talks for a role in the upcoming epic fantasy series. Details of Cavanaugh's character are being kept under wraps, but sources say she would be playing a character named Tyra. Little is known about the Lord of the Rings series beyond the fact that it will explore new storylines preceding J.R.R. Tolkien's The Fellowship of the Ring. And that will do it for today's installment of the Movie News Feed.
And now you are all caught up to date with everything going on in the world of entertainment. Special thanks to fact checker Jonathan for getting us all caught up. And now, guys, we reached that part of the show for your live questions. Let's jump over right now and start hearing what you guys have to say. We're going to start with Warma Chin Rocks writes, I'm about to
War Machine.
War Machine Rocks. It's all blurs together in one big word. War Machini Rocks. War Machine Rocks writes, I'm about to head on a 67-hour car ride for the weekend. What movies would you recommend for me to watch on the road? Honestly, when I'm on a long drive road trip, the best thing for me to have playing on, I mean, obviously I can't watch it, but have it on, is comedies. Comedies are just one because you don't want to get too drawn into drama or anything. You can't pay. It's little things that have good, fun jokes. Honestly, the best thing I like listening to is just stand-up comedy. But other than that is probably comedies. What do you guys like to listen to when you're doing a long road? What type of thing would you recommend he pop on for a long road trip?
I'm a book on tapes guy, or I listen to old radio shows or things like that, because movies, I get too sucked into wanting to watch scenes.
Yeah.
Like, comedies dangerous. Are great, but I think I like the idea of stand-up comedy because you don't really need to see it.
Erin, do you got something you like to watch?
Yeah, if it's me by myself, I'm all about books on tape and podcasts. But when Tom is in the car, he loves stand-up comedians. Bill Burr is a personal favorite of ours, although he's a little, But also, what's the one with Chris Farley and David Spade? Tommy Boy.
I was going to say the 3 or 4 of them that they did.
Right, Tommy Boy would be a great. If you're going to be in the passenger seat, that's a great one to watch, and it takes place in a car.
Let's see. La Uga were. I was kidding. Laugh Warehouse writes, what comes first, Family Guy movie or Simpsons 2? I think Family Guy movie. I mean, we just saw the creator, Matt Groening, talk about how he isn't going to even entertain the idea of another Simpsons movie until they're done their TV run because they just don't have the muscle. I do think Family Guy isn't about to happen anytime soon, but I think that one will happen first. Andres Martinez writes, thoughts on Back to the Future? It's one of the all-time greats. It's fabulous. It's fantastic. Starring a good Canadian kid, by the way. Tristan Larson writes, where are we at? Just watched... Where are we at? The Toni Collette dinner scene from Hereditary on repeat, 20 minutes. Maybe one of the best scenes of pure acting I've ever seen. I am still shocked, guys, shocked. Now, I don't think Hereditary is the best movie of the year or anything like that. But I thought Toni Collette had a legit shot at winning the Academy Award for Best Actress. I thought she had a legit shot at that. I thought her getting a nomination was a foregone conclusion. Now, again, I don't think Hereditary is the best film of the year, but her acting in that was crazy good. I mean, am I alone in thinking that was a huge shock, Rob?
I agree with you. I mean, that sequence in particular, she was amazing in the film. And that was one of those scenes where you don't know what's happening in the movie. You don't know the dynamic. And that scene is when it all comes out. And things that you thought were true weren't necessarily true. And you find out that Toni Collette isn't exactly the person you thought she was.
Right.
And it's this back and forth. And it is a tour de force of acting.
Were you surprised that Toni Collette didn't get an Oscar nomination that year?
I really was. But, I think that's about the prejudice of the kind of movie it was. Because it was a horror film, and I unless it's an A-list movie like Silence of the Lambs, a lot of the time there's some incredible acting that goes on in genre cinema that gets overlooked because it's not in, say, a prestigious film like, I don't know, historical drama or something. It's not about the monarchy in England during the 16th century. I mean, who knows? Hereditary, though, unbelievable performance. And that sequence in particular is a stunning example of film acting.
All right, let's move on here. Next up is, where were we at? Okay, Shama writes, just donate for, you probably meant donate. Just donate for ramen so you can buy some toys. I made a joke when I was at Comic-Con that I could buy this Captain America if I just eat ramen noodles for the next 2 months. So I was throwing in, so maybe I can get some ramen. Tyler Van writes, best Chris Columbus movie. Oh. He did do Robin Williams. Why am I freezing on Mrs. Doubtfire? Did he not do Mrs. Doubtfire?
Yeah.
Thought I did. I probably have to go Mrs. Doubtfire. What would you say, Rob?
I got Gremlins.
Ooh,
I love Gremlins.
Yeah.
I thought Gremlins was a hard thing to pull off, and I've always loved it. It's a family story, it's a love story, and it's a horror movie.
Erin, do you got one particular that you?
You know what? I got to go with Gremlins as well. It's timeless.
All right, War Machine Rocks writes, spotlight on Brian Tree Henry. Dude's been in Atlanta, Spider-Verse, Beale Street, Widows, and the upcoming is in Eternals, Joker, Quiet Place 2, Kong versus Godzilla. Dude's busy right now. You know what? I wasn't a big fan of the new Chucky movie, Child's Play. I wasn't a big fan of Child's Play, but I really did like him in it. I thought he was actually pretty cool, and I love him. He's the guy, I believe he's the one who plays Paperboy. I love him in Atlanta. But this dude is taking off. Like, completely taking off. It feels like all the main guys on Atlanta are completely taking off, which is great to see. Suthius writes, hey guys, I was watching old San Diego Comic-Con Marvel panels. Out of the 3 surprise character announcements, which was your favorite? Boseman, Larson, or Mahershala Ali? I gotta tell you what, I love the Chadwick Boseman announcement, because he had done some great stuff that we were really happy with. And I love the Brie Larson announcement. I think that was a big surprise, Academy Award winner, but I gotta say, I think it's Mahershala Ali. He's coming off of 2 Academy Award wins and just kind of becoming universally recognized as one of the dominant forces in acting right now. So I'm going to say, even though it's the new thing, Mahershala Ali. Guys, out of the Chadwick Boseman announcement, the Brie Larson announcement, and the Mahershala Ali one, which one stands out to you the most, Erin?
Definitely Mahershala Ali. And I love the story about how after he won his second Oscar, he walked into Kevin Feige's office and said, I want to be Blade. He took ownership of that, and he went, because who knows whether or not they were even, whether they were considering doing the movie, whether they were considering him. The fact that he as an actor finally knew that he was at a place where he could start saying, now I get to call the shots of what I want to do, and that people would listen, and that people did listen. Very exciting, and just shows someone really claiming their power and doing something really wonderful with it.
Rob?
I got to say Mahershala Ali as well, because we didn't know a Blade movie was coming.
Yeah.
So it was
a double surprise.
It was a shocker, and like Erin just said, I love the fact that you've just won your second Academy Award, and you're thinking, I could play any historical figure, I could do anything I want, and what would be more important? He's like, I want to play Blade. Yeah. I mean, that's something I would do if I won an Academy Award. To be like, I want to make a Star Trek movie. That's what I would say, and I love that he did that, and that will endear him to me forever.
All right. Next up, Superman Steve sends in a really significant super chat. Thank you so much for supporting the channel on that level, Steve. Sorry about my question yesterday, John. You're completely correct. I thought, I remember this now. I thought that Won't You Be My Neighbor was the new movie with Tom Hanks. Also, that Apollo 11 movie was absolutely terrible / boring in my opinion. So I remember this yesterday. Superman Steve wrote in and said, hey, they're finally releasing Won't You Be My Neighbor, but they changed the name to a Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood. It's like, actually, those are 2 different movies. Now, the one was a documentary, but we talked about the trailer for A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood yesterday. And as Rob so eloquently put it, if it's getting that many tears out of us with a 2-minute trailer, what the hell are they going to do to us in 2 hours? Which is one of the most magnificent looking sounding things. I still have not watched Apollo 11, Rob. I know you've been talking about it. You saw it and you enjoyed that?
Look, I can understand if I grew up with the space program. It's like a religious experience to me watching Apollo 11, and I loved every minute of it. And we just celebrated the 50th anniversary of the moon landing. It was very significant in my life as a young man, and the fact that we were actually going to the moon when I was a little kid and landing on the moon. And I can't tell you how many Saturn V rockets. I'm building my 5-foot flying Saturn V that goes 10,000 feet in the air. You need an FAA waiver to fly it. What? I didn't get to finish it. I know. know. I didn't get to finish it before the moon landing, but I'll take it out to Palm Springs and shoot it off and make a video. You can show it on the
Erin,
show.
I'm curious. Did you have a chance? I mean, we haven't talked about it before, but did you have a chance to watch that Mr. Rogers' Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood trailer yesterday?
I haven't, but I saw your post on it, and yesterday was a little bit of a crazy day for me. But I have some time today. I'm going to watch it.
Yeah,
I just have to get my
Insta tears.
Instant tears.
Instant tears.
Instant tears. It looks so great. Anyway, thanks for that, Superman Steve. All right, next up, MP writes, did you notice Avatar went up 1.7 million on Sunday? I don't know if that's true. I certainly didn't see anybody talking about that. If that's true, that's interesting. I don't know what that would be about. Big John No 2 writes, what does Mahershala Ali's casting as Blade mean for the continuity of the Netflix shows like Luke Cage in the MCU, where Ali played Cottonmouth? I've addressed this a couple times already. I think it just further emphasizes that the Netflix series were never truly practically in the MCU. Technically, they were. And they did some very vague references to, on the thinnest of levels, show some sort of tenuous connection between the Netflix world and the MCU. But there's a reason that when the portals open, Jessica Jones doesn't come through the portal. There's a reason when the portal opened, Luke Cage or Punisher or Daredevil, because Kevin Feige never considered the Netflix shows a part of his universe. And that was all set up and done in a very awkward time during the Marvel power structure under Disney at the time. And Kevin Feige, just plain and simple, never considered the Netflix a part of his universe. And I think the casting of Mahershala Ali just reemphasizes him putting distance between his MCU and the Netflix world. I don't think that's why he cast Mahershala Ali, but I think that just kind of drives that point home a little bit more, that Feige is definitively separating his MCU from whatever the Netflix universe was. And some of the Netflix stuff was amazing. Suthius writes, that Ghostbusters Optimus Prime is around $250, not $150. One of the pictures I took at Comic-Con was an Optimus Prime, but decked out as in the Ghostbusters car colors with the Ghostbusters logo on them. Ghostbusters Optimus Prime is one of the greatest things I've ever seen. All right, Artur Mansouri writes, no comic book movie, no sequel, no Star Wars, no major franchise, and yet DiCaprio's movies make hundreds of millions. Why do you think that is? Oh, I think it's part of, first of all, not every movie DiCaprio does huge business, but DiCaprio is an actor who's at a point in his career, guys, who simply can be very picky and very choosy and get first pick of all the best scripts that he finds floating around in Hollywood. I mean, he's just at that point, and him and his representation have been pretty good about which projects he attaches himself to and what he'll be involved with. And listen, when you are at the point that you get to pick anything you want, you're going to have a little bit of an advantage of getting some good stuff to be a part of. But I don't know, Erin, when you look at the success that DiCaprio has, despite the fact that he's never been in a big sci-fi movie, never been in a comic book movie, never been in a Star Wars movie, what do you attribute that to?
Yeah, I think it's exactly that. He has his pick of anything he wants in Hollywood, not only of scripts, but also of directors.
Yeah.
And he has ultimate approval over everyone and everything. No doubt that anyone who's cast in a Leonardo DiCaprio movie, Leonardo DiCaprio can say, no, I don't think so. And so he's only going to be working with people that he knows are going to be able to bring their A game. And I think that people also know that when they work with Leonardo DiCaprio, they better bring their A game as well. I've heard that he's phenomenal to work with on set, that he's a consummate professional. And so, and I also think that he's never been insistent on putting himself out there. He doesn't do 5 movies a year. So I don't think that we run into that problem of, oh God, another Leo movie. I think every time, he takes a good amount of time off between movies, and I think that's very smart because he has the luxury to do so.
Rob, what do you attribute it to?
Well, I think exactly what Erin just said. It's not just picking the right material, it's picking, as we talked about earlier, the right collaborators. And ever since he was in What's Eating Gilbert Grape, he proved himself as one of the great young actors in Hollywood. Then he worked with people like Baz Luhrmann, and then he worked with James Cameron. He's made how many movies with Martin Scorsese now? Mm-hmm. He goes on and does The Revenant.
He's done a couple of
Tarantino movies. Mm-hmm. The choices that he's made, he's only working with the visionaries in the industry because he doesn't have to do anything else. And I think what's really interesting is he's also a guy, like, I've been to his office a couple times. His movie poster collection is all of the great is foreign posters of all of the great movies throughout all of cinema history. The man is a lifer. He loves movies. He loves his career. He loves the people he's worked with, and he's got a dream career in Hollywood. Remember, he's been acting since he was a little kid.
Yeah, he was one of the teeny bopper magazine cover boys.
Growing
and
pains.
He has growing pains, and he has endured. All right, MP writes, Hulu, make a Spider-Man animated series for adults. That's not Hulu's call. That's Sony's call, and Sony will never allow that. Don't know what to put writes, pet peeve. And then he woke up. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. The whole, it was just a dream thing. Yeah, do not do that. MP writes, odds of Craig's Bond dusting before the reboot. I think pretty good that it won't. I think pretty good, MP, that it won't. Don't know what to put writes, did you see the horror film Blood Creek with Henry Cavill and Michael Fassbender? I kept thinking, what the fuck am I watching? I have never seen that. I got to tell you right now. Actually, as a matter of fact, as much as I love Henry Cavill, he's done several straight-to-home video kind of movies. I think he did one of the Bruce Willis, if I'm not mistaken. But anyway, I have not seen Blood Creek. Rob is the resident. I've seen everything horror guy. Have you ever
I have
seen it?
not, and if it's what I'm thinking of, I've tried to get this movie on Blu-ray, and it's out of print. I can't get it.
Oh.
I mean, I haven't looked hard enough, but I couldn't get it from Amazon.
Henry Cavill's got to pay bills too, man.
That's right. Everybody's
gotta
got
eat.
bills to pay. Fine Nguyen writes, rocking my baby to sleep at 1 a.m. Good morning to you. Well, I hope she went down well, Fine Nguyen. Thanks for hanging out with us. Sony Dominguez writes, Latino heroes are overdue in the MCU, coming soon. Oh, we've already heard Kevin Feige mention a couple of things about that. There was talk about Blue Beetle at one point. I don't think that's happening anymore, but they were going to do the Blue Beetle Latino character rendition of it. That didn't happen, but I think much sooner rather than later. I think it's going to happen much sooner rather than later. What's that, Rob?
Well, it's the Blue Beetles, the DCEU.
Yes, not in Marvel, but there's that over there. There's
Right.
a comic book hero.
Yeah. I thought you were just saying
Not necessarily. That's not in the MCU, but we've heard Kevin Feige talking about it, so I think it's coming.
We'll definitely get that.
Amalia 1981 writes, favorite John Landis movie. Mine is Blues Brothers.
Oh, that's easy for me.
Oh, which one's that?
I mean, the Thriller music video. I know it's not a movie, but
It's probably the most watched thing he ever made.
and followed by An American Werewolf in London.
Which is, by the way, my all-time number one horror film ever. It was American Werewolf in London, so you stole my thunder. Anyway, Rob, what about
Sorry.
I gotta go old school. It's because I've seen it 100 times. It was one of the first video cassettes I ever owned. Animal House.
Oh, I didn't realize that was John Landis.
Yeah, I got to stick with American Werewolf in London. It's still, to this day.
I think that's his best movie for sure.
As an adult, I still can't watch it at night with the lights off.
I also like the movie Into the Night with Jeff Goldblum that no one has seen. But I don't think
I've seen that one.
If you've never seen the making of Thriller, though, I must have watched that 300 times when I was a kid. It is really fascinating, from the choreography to the way that they created the werewolf. It is phenomenal. The making of Thriller is brilliant.
All right, next up, Tom Gillard writes, so if the Eternals have been on Earth for a long time, has Kumail Nanjiani been in disguise as an Uber driver? Yes, because Kumail's two big movies, if you don't count that terrible Men in Black movie he just did, he has been an Uber driver. He was an Uber driver in The Big Sick, and he was an Uber driver now in Stuber. I think that if they did that, Tom, I will just throw my popcorn in the air and say this is the greatest thing ever. If they actually make Kumail Nanjiani's eternal character an Uber driver, that'll be the greatest thing ever. By the way, guys, I know a lot of you still have not seen The Big Sick. Watch The Big Sick. It's so good and so funny and so heart. It's just wonderful. Cameron Ross writes, I just watched an interview with the guys who made Avatar: The Last Airbender, and they said any insight they gave M. Night, he ignored, which makes me more excited to see what they do with the Netflix one. I'll tell you what, Cameron and guys, honestly, throwing other people under the bus is not a new thing in Hollywood. And I guarantee you, had that Airbender movie been a big hit, they wouldn't be talking about how M. Night ignored all of our... They just wouldn't. So I honestly don't give much credence to that at all. We'll see how this thing goes. Now, I know a lot of people are very excited about this upcoming series. I get it, and I hope it's great. But just because one person throws another person under the bus in Hollywood, David Harbour just did the same thing with Hellboy. Oh, it wasn't I'm very proud of what I did on Hellboy. Whatever went wrong with it wasn't my fault. I mean, I don't have a lot of respect for people who don't take responsibility for things that have their name on it. I don't expect them to lie, but I take some ownership of it. Say, yeah, you know what? I was the star of that movie and the movie sucked, and I'll take my share of the blame. I was the producer in that movie and didn't work out. I don't like a lot of people throwing other people under the bus. You know, it's not something that suits people. Rob, you see this. What do you think about that?
I don't like that. I don't like it because, you know, again, we talked about earlier that there's many, many, many people that contribute to the making of television and movies. And if something doesn't work out, that doesn't negate all the great work people were trying to do. You know, I think it's bad form. It's bad taste. I don't like it, even though sometimes I too have probably been guilty of it, but I don't like when I do it.
We probably have all been. Let's be honest. This is a human condition thing. I think it's something we've all probably done. Erin, you've been on a lot of sets and whatever. Have you ever seen that sort of thing kind of rear its ugly head?
Sure. And, you know, there's also, we've all done it, but there's a difference between what you say to your friends and what you say in public in an interview.
Yeah.
I mean, there's certainly things about many projects that I have said, you know, to my close friends and people that I know personally that I would never say in public in an interview because, yeah, it is really bad form. And what I respect the most is when an actor or a producer or director or whatever says, you know, we went in with, you know, the best of intentions, hoping to make a movie that would resonate with people. Unfortunately, it didn't. And that's all you have to say. You know, you don't have to, and blaming this person or that person, it really doesn't do anybody any good, and it merely makes you look bad at the end.
Why am I freezing on the guy who just directed X-Men, Dark Phoenix? Simon Kinberg.
Simon Kinberg, yeah.
One of the things, you know, I wanted to like that movie, not good. I said from the beginning, not a good idea to give somebody their first time directing that. But I give a lot of credit to Simon Kinberg, who, after Dark Phoenix flopped, he was the first guy to, you know, push back his chair, stand up and go, this is on me. This is on me. And I respect that. I respect the hell out of that. And I just don't like when I see other people throwing other people under the bus. Anyway, next up comes to us from Amelia, 1981, who writes, follow-up from Thursday, The King's Daughter on IMDb says completed. Stars Pierce Brosnan, William Hurt, and Bing Bing Fan, etc. So I get so many questions. If I'm remembering it right, that was a movie that was like shot in like 2014 and never saw the light of day. I might be mixing up the questions because you got to be more specific, but I think, anyway, she follows that up and she writes, apparently Paramount canceled release 3 days before release in 2014 and is searching for a new distributor. I got news for you. If it was shot and canceled in 2014, I don't see a lot of distributors jumping up and saying, let us release this movie. It's probably going to find its way onto Crackle or Stars, or what's the network that has Pennyworth right now? Epic. Maybe on Epics or something like that, but it's probably not going to come around.
That dropped. I'm curious to watch it. First episode.
You know, yes. I'm hearing good things about Pennyworth.
Yeah,
actually.
me too.
I thought it was a dumb idea, but I'm hearing good things. Not such good things about Batwoman, but good things about Pennyworth. Kevin Lewis writes, first it was too tall Jackman, now too small Portman. Yeah, Jackman can't be Wolverine, he's too big. Amelia, 1981 writes, why the studio don't just release such a movie? Because distributors release a movie. And it costs a lot of money to distribute and market a movie. And if you don't think you can recoup that money, then it's not like, oh, it's free to release a movie. No, it costs a lot of money. They just talked about how much did they say Avengers Endgame just spent on marketing alone, releasing and marketing was $200 million?
Something like that, which
like,
is crazy. Not
that every movie costs that much, but you're talking about millions of dollars you got to spend to release it. And if you don't think you can even get that back, that's why you don't just release it. She follows up again with, will Marvel recast Colossus if Deadpool joins the MCU? Well, Deadpool isn't joining the MCU, so that much we know already. And again, they reaffirmed that at CinemaCon in April that Rob and I were at, when Alan Horn came out on stage and clearly had Deadpool listed under the upcoming Fox properties. The Fox movies, now owned by Disney, and they listed Deadpool under that, so you're not going to see Deadpool in the MCU. I don't get likes writes. Did you see James Cameron congratulated Endgame? I don't feel like he had to even say anything for it passing Avatar or Titanic, but okay. And I did. Did you guys see that? Did you guys see the thing he put out?
No, but I there's a long history of directors congratulating other directors or films when they surpass certain
Well, what are
levels.
those floaty? They look like jellyfish in Avatar. Those floaty creatures that kind of look. What James Cameron did was he had this piece of art made of Iron Man standing like this with all those floaty jellyfish around
That's
him.
really cool.
Oh, wow.
And then he wrote congratulations in the Na'vi language in it. To which this was also great. The Russo brothers then created their own post that has it's 4 frames. And it's kind of like the Mystery Science 3000 thing where it's behind and you just see the silhouette of these 2 guys sitting in the theater. And up on the big screen was Terminator. And you see them going with a little voice bubble, holy shit! And then them watching Titanic, holy shit! And then them watching one of his other ones, holy shit! And it's just them saying, James, you're the one who inspired us to make movies, and we can't wait to see where it go. I love this.
Oh my
crap.
gosh,
Yep.
I'm crying.
Yes.
See, this is exactly what I love about Hollywood is that it's not, yes, I know that people talk about how it's this insidious place and all these people are just trying to screw each other over. And yes, as any other industry, that does happen. But ultimately, we're all here to fulfill our childhood dreams of making magic and bringing it to people so that they can enjoy it, so that they can live vicariously through the stories that are told.
I know that's what we do here on the John Campea Show.
Absolutely, every day. Tuesdays and Thursdays for me. But it really is about this community of artists who do get inspired by one another's work. It's not like, oh, well, screw them. Their movie made more than mine. It's like, that's wonderful because it's everybody is constantly raising the bar for everyone else. And I think that's beautiful for a director like James Cameron, who isn't necessarily known for being like touchy-feely, warm fuzzies, for him to extend that. I think that's a beautiful thing to say.
Yeah, I just love the exchange. It just makes your heart
that's
happy
nice.
seeing
Yeah,
it. It's
that's
great.
great.
Very classy on everybody's part. I loved it. All right, let's keep moving on here. I don't know I don't know what to put. Writes, you know what the definition of a hero is? Someone who gets other people killed. LOL. Love Firefly. God, I miss Mal and Jane, and I loved Serenity and Firefly. And by the way, guys, I don't know if you guys ever saw it, but they put out, Firefly had a movie version come out called Serenity. That was kind of a sequel to the series. And it was so brilliantly done because you could walk into Serenity having never watched an episode of Firefly and totally know what was going on. And on its own merits, it was a great sci-fi movie. And it was the movie that really introduced to me Chiwetel Ejiofor. Chiwetel Ejiofor played the operative, the bad guy in the movie.
In that.
So I became a lifelong fan of him watching that movie. Young Miss. Oh my God, he was so scary and creepy, and it was so good. And I miss that show so much. It only, for as popular as it is, it only lasted 1 season. It lasted 1 season. And for years, people wanted it to come back and all that kind of stuff, but I don't know if you guys ever saw Serenity, but guys, if you have not seen Serenity, watch it. It is so fun. Nathan Fillion at his best. It's just, glorious, glorious movie. BMC writes, pumped for Once Upon a Time. When does the embargo lift? I think the embargo lifts tomorrow. No. I take that back. The embargo's already lifted. Because I believe reviews were coming out for it at Cannes. No, not full reviews, just social media was lifted. I think the full review might actually be tomorrow, so we'll keep our eyes for that. Carrot writes, thanks to Rob for putting HBO's Years and Years on my radar. What an awesome show. What is Years and Years?
Well, it's Russell T Davies, who wrote things like Queer as Folk. He wrote a lot of Doctor Who. He wrote one of the finest science fiction shows ever. He wrote Torchwood Children of Earth. Years and Years is a new show that HBO did in conjunction with the BBC, the same that they're doing with His Dark Materials. And it's basically the story of a British family, but it takes place over the next 15 years, like 15 years into the future, and it extrapolates things that are happening now, and it shows the rise. Emma Thompson plays the rise of this female, I wouldn't call her Trump-esque, but definitely a dangerous politician with some dangerous ideas. But it shows what everyday life is going to be like for all of us in the next 15 years. And each episode jumps ahead a lot of time. And it's phenomenal. It's 6 episodes. The 6th episode drops this week. It is so good. And if you start watching it, all I can say is episode 4.
Is that the one where she goes, "Are you with me?"
Yes.
Oh, okay. I know that.
It's really, really good.
And by the way, I just got to point this out because JB Bonifacio in the live chat just remind me of one of the greatest episodes of Firefly. Or it might have been from, was it from the movie or was it from Firefly? Anyway, where 2 things happen in the same episode. One, Monica Baccarin, is that her first name? Is it Monica her first name from Deadpool? Baccarin. I forget Baccarin's first name. She was in Gotham.
That's not Marina Baccarin.
I will look it up.
Anyway,
Why am I drawing
where
a blank
she,
on
of
it?
course, plays a consort, right? And her new client comes on board, and it's another beautiful woman. And Jane's just like, "I'll be in my bunk." And he goes away. And then later...
Marina Baccarin.
Marina. Thank you, Baccarin. And later on, when the other girl, the engineer girl, goes, "I haven't had no intimacy that didn't run on batteries lately." And then Jane, just for a moment, pause. "I'll be in my bunk." And then just, oh my God, I love that show.
Was Jane Eliza Dushku?
No, Jane, it was...
Who was Firefly?
He was played by Baldwin, Adam Baldwin.
Yeah.
Wait, who was... Okay, I'm thinking of a totally different show.
Yeah, this
That was Dollhouse.
Yeah, you're
No,
thinking...
no, pre-Dollhouse. I know Dollhouse. I worked with Eliza Dushku on Dollhouse.
Anyway,
Was she in Buffy?
She was in Buffy.
Yep, she was
Yeah.
also in Buffy. That's where she got her name recognition from. Let's see. Kevin
didn't know you were
Feige.
in
I
Dollhouse,
don't
I'm
get
sorry.
likes rights.
Oh, that's okay. No, that look was not directed at you. At all. I promise.
I don't get likes rights. Kevin Feige was talking about the X-Men, and he specifically said, "I did say mutants. I'd put Deadpool in that category. Maybe MCU after all." Again, no, I don't think so. Look, anything is possible. Things can change. But all I can say is, as of April, just a hop, skip, and a jump ago, Alan Horn on the stage at CinemaCon, very clearly, Deadpool, Fox. They made that pretty clear.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean things can't change, but they were pretty explicit about it. I don't know what to put rights. Mr. Rogers could have saved Joker from cracking. I'll tell you what, Mr. Rogers could have talked Thanos down. Mr. Rogers, one of the best memes, guys, I've seen in a long time. It was a great meme. You've probably seen it floating around. But Thor is talking, it's a cartoon. Thor's talking, Thor, blah, blah, blah. And all of a sudden, just out of nowhere, comes Mr. Rogers holding Mjolnir. He goes, "Excuse me, young man, is this yours?" He's holding Mjolnir. Anyway, it's just one of the perfect memes ever. Damn right he could have talked the Joker down. ZMG Ruler writes, "New Lion King felt silly to me, like school play." Completely disagree. I mean, hey, all films subjective. If it didn't work for you, that's awesome. I know Erin and I saw it.
Yeah.
I loved it.
Loved it.
It was. I thought it was borderline, not the perfection of the 1994 original, but borderline perfection to me. David Atkins writes, where are we at? "Love Mackie and Sebastian Stan so much during interviews. You can see how strong their friendship has been since Winter Soldier. Looking forward to their show." Look, I have no doubt, Dave, that a lot of the times that we see a couple of stars in a particular property buddy together, I'm guessing probably 50% of the time that's probably just for the camera, for PR. But there's also sometimes where you can kind of see an authenticity to it. And guys, when I do see these two, when I see Anthony Mackie and Sebastian Stan doing their things together, it really does come across, at least to me, as extremely authentic. And when I see like cast members who really do dig working together, maybe this is just me getting suckered in by the PR of it all. But when I see that, it makes me more invested in wanting to see the property. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. Like, look, I've never been an actor in a movie before, but Erin, when you are an acting in a movie or a television series, whatever, you are doing like some really intimate stuff. Like,
yeah,
not sexually intimate, but I mean like emotionally intimate stuff. Have you found yourself when you've worked on shows like that you've developed a lot of strong bonds with people?
Oh my gosh, we talk about it all the time that two actors or a group of actors in a television show or a movie will know more personal information about one another in 3 days than most people who work in an office will know about their coworker in 10 years. I mean, you really there's a lot of downtime, and in that downtime, it's not like everyone's retreating to their trailers. There's a lot of things that are discussed. Those people, the first people that you meet that you see in the morning, you're spending more time with them oftentimes than you are with your spouse and your family. So there is a lot of intimacy there as far as like getting, really deep emotional and personal things happen. I mean, you have family members and friends pass away while you're filming projects. I mean, I remember Andy Whitfield passed away, and the very next day I had to go to work on Pan Am, and I had to do these like really light, happy scenes, and I was working with Mike Vogel, and he'd read what happened, and between scenes, he was literally my lifeline, being so kind to me. And for his kindness during that incredibly painful time of my life, I will forever be in debt to him as a friend, even though we only worked together for maybe 8 days. So that does happen. I do want to ask you this question, though. I notice in press junkets, a lot of times you'll have individual people being interviewed, but then sometimes they'll buddy people up. I usually think that they put the actors that have the best chemistry sometimes. If let's say that Anthony Mackie and Sebastian Stan did not have great chemistry, they maybe would have been separate for the press junket. But like, you've done a lot of press junkets. How do you find that works?
Yeah, well, sometimes, every once in a while, they do that just for expediency because, for instance, an Avengers thing, they got 20 people. They want to cut the amount of rooms down in half, so they'll put 2 or 3 together.
But won't they usually put people together that they know have a natural chemistry?
Sometimes,
versus
yes.
just, let's just throw 2 actors in a room?
Yes, because this is one time I did, although I don't think they ever did it again, they put Chris Hemsworth and Chris Evans together. And it is the most infamous junket interview I've ever done. They've actually used my interview in documentaries and news clips and stuff like that because you're supposed to get 3 minutes. I was in the room for about 15 minutes.
Oh, wow.
With these guys. So I had met them before, but I'd gone on and they already were had the giggles a little bit. So we go in there and we start talking for the first 2 or 3 minutes while they're resetting a camera or something like that. And somebody says something and the 3 of us just start laughing. At that point on, Chris and Chris couldn't stop. And then I remember I said something to Chris Evans. I'm like, we've seen in Captain America, you really, because I was trying to do it seriously, right? I'm like, we've seen you really dig deep in Captain America, and you really brought out like a level of him. And Hemsworth just goes, did he though? Did he? and it just went off from there the whole time. Like, everybody swore the 2 guys were high, but they found that, and I don't think they ever let them do interviews together again after that. But
that's
but
great.
Yes, they will often pair people up who have that time of chemistry together. And listen, guys, it is 10:30. It's an hour and a half. So, Erin and Rob have other things they need to be doing with their day. So we're going to say goodbye to them. So, Rob, first of all, thanks for being here, man. Where can people find you online?
Well, you can find me on Twitter at BurnettRM, find me on Instagram at RMBurnett, or find me on my own YouTube channel, The Burnett Work, on YouTube.
And to
channel.
the equally wonderful Erin Cummings. Erin, where can people find you?
You can find me on Instagram and Twitter at Erin L. Cummings. Also listen to my podcast, Kappa Kappa Cancer. And if you're in the Los Angeles area, on Sunday, July 28th, I will be co-hosting Drag Queen Bingo in West Hollywood to benefit Kit Crusaders, little stray cat organization. So come see me at the 8 o'clock show. I'll be with Miss Roxy Hart.
Thank you guys to both of you. And Rob, we got to talk about that Star Wars game pretty soon. And I'm trying to talk Erin's husband into joining the Star Wars game. I'm getting a Star Wars role-playing game together that we're going to record and put on the channel. But keep our eyes open.
I'm in, man.
All right, guys. Thanks so much for being here, guys. And we'll talk to you guys later. All right, guys. We still have a whole bunch of live questions that we need to get to. So let's keep this ball rolling. And we're going to get over now to where are we at here? Dave Atkins writes, also, HT Time Machine is probably Hot Tub Time Machine. Hot Tub Time Machine reference in Endgame. Sebastian Stan also in the movie. I forgot Sebastian Stan. That's right. He's the guy that said, they're Russians. I forgot about that. Was also in the movie. So there's an actor that looks just like Bucky in the MCU. Mind blown. That's a great observation, Dave. I totally forgot about that, man.
Thanks, Dave, for his next question.
And Dave asked a question, writes, warm welcome to Erin from the UK. You rock, girl. Oh, look at that. Isn't that sweet? So,
Just running out the door and I saw your question. Thanks, Dave.
so you had to stay behind for that.
Stay behind. Thank you. Bye.
Okay, see you later. All right. And now we move on. So thanks for that, Dave. That was considerate of you, my friend. All right. Lemuel James writes, is it fair to speculate that Jane will only take on Thor's power as captain but not use his name? I think it is, but again, all I have to go on is what Taika Waititi actually said at the panel. And what he actually said was, she's now Thor. Now, again, I've said it's possible that he misspoke. It's possible it's a bit of a misdirect. It's possible it's a little bit of semantics and wordplay. All I have to go on right now is what he said. Is it fair to speculate that maybe she just kind of takes on his power for a bit? Totally is. Totally is. And I hope, I hope you're right. I hope you're right, because that to me makes more sense. And what you're saying is more palatable to me. So I hope you're right, my friend. All right. Royce Freeman writes, does Thor 4 being listed but not Guardians 3 on panel mean that Gunn was rehired after Taika was? And you think Thor 4 will explain Thor whereabouts following Endgame or Guardians 3 prequel? Well, no, the reason that Thor 4 is listed is because Thor 4 is happening in 2021, in 2020 and 2021. Remember, that's all they were talking about. James Gunn is doing Suicide Squad. James Gunn can't possibly have Guardians 3 ready until 2022 or 2023 at the earliest. So I don't really think that had anything to do with it. And do I think Thor 4 will explain Thor's whereabouts following Endgame? Oh, I imagine it will. That only seems to make sense. So yeah, I think you're onto that, Royce. I think they totally will on that. Ryan Lohner writes, my big pet peeve, someone's getting chased and stop dead and grin like a dope. Let me try this. My big pet peeve, someone's getting chased and stop dead and grin like a dope the second they think they're safe. Bob from Stranger Things is the worst recent case of that. Like, I know. If I'm running from something that is life-threatening, the moment I think I'm safe, I'm not stopping. I'm going for 5 minutes after the moment I thought I was safe. Like, I'll hit that moment where I think I'm safe now, and I'm still running for another good 5 minutes. And your eyes like, whoo, I think I lost them. Time to have some tea. You're absolutely right. So many movies and TV shows have done that, Ryan. You're absolutely right. And it drives me crazy. ZOMG Ruler writes, DCU rumored to be in crisis. Erin, know anything? No, I don't believe that for a second. I don't believe that for a second. Marie Seifring writes, I love the work of Joel and Ethan Coen. Miller's Crossing, No Country for Old Men, and Oh Brother Where Art Thou are three of my favorites. And you know what else I really like? That nobody else does. Lady Killers. With J.K. Simmons, Tom Hanks. Lady Killers gets a lot of hate, and I really like that movie as well. I think that one's really, really good too, Marie, as a matter of fact. And I love the ones you listed. Marie follows up with, if you haven't seen their work before, I highly recommend looking for movies directed by the Coen brothers. Oh, the Coen brothers are great. You know, Oh Brother Where Art Thou? I am a man of constant sorrow. You know, Soggy Bottom Boys. Anyway, if you haven't seen Oh Brother Where Art Thou, you absolutely have to check it out. And all the movies that Marie just listed, because those truly are great ones. Great recommendations, Marie. All right, Willow Yang writes, do you think they'll bring Lady Sif back? I personally thought Thor had much better chemistry with her than with Jane. I 1,000% agree with you, Willow. 1,000% agree. He had great chemistry with Lady Sif. But I don't know that they're going to bring her back. Now, the one thing you can say is that Jamie Alexander, who played Lady Sif, her show Blind Spot's coming to an end. So that's going to free up her schedule a little bit. But I don't know. They just seem to move on from Lady Sif. And I honestly don't know that they'll come back to her. I would love it if they did. I think she's a great character, especially that now that the Warriors 3 are all dead. They killed off the Warriors 3. So it'd be great if they brought her back to give Thor some kind of connection to his origins. But I don't think they will. I don't think they will. I hope they do, but I don't think they will. All right. Razor's Edge writes, have you seen the final trailer for It Chapter 2? I have. I craved you. My God, I think Skarsgård was born for this role. So damn creepy. I'm telling you what. I was already excited for It Chapter 2 because I really enjoyed It Chapter 1. So there's my excitement level. Then that first promo spot they showed us at CinemaCon jumped up my anticipation level like this. Then the trailer version of it came out a few months later. Excitement level went up to here. And now this newest final trailer, boom, off the scale. Off the scale. The trailer's fantastic. I love it. I cannot wait for this damn movie. I'm so excited about it. And I'm not a big horror guy, but I loved it, Chapter 1, and this looks like it's going to top it. I cannot wait for it. All right, Roy L. writes, I think it's possible to do an R-rated Blade movie. Just keep it violent and they can swear, just no F-bombs. I think that could work. What do you think? Well, but it doesn't matter. Bob Iger is not going to allow R-rated movies in his MCU. He has said that. He's made it very clear. Could change his mind, but you gotta think higher level than what we as fans normally think on. You gotta think higher level and bigger picture, and that's what Bob Iger does. Bob Iger thinks on higher level thinking. And his higher level thinking is, we create this property, this Marvel Cinematic Universe, and we cultivate very carefully its image, and we cultivate very carefully our relationship with our audience and our customers. And we tell them, an MCU movie, that means you can bring your family. If it's an MCU movie, you can bring your family. Bob Iger is not going to fracture that by suddenly throwing into the MCU something that's supposed to be family friendly, and they've cultivated this relationship and the messaging to the audience. You can bring your family, you can bring your family, you can bring your family, and suddenly throw an R-rated film in it. He ain't going to disrupt his relationship with his consumer base like that. He's just not going to do it. And he said that. Does that mean it's impossible that Bob Iger doesn't change his mind or blah, blah, blah? No, it's not impossible. It's not. There always exists a possibility it could, but it's extremely thin. It's extremely thin. So no, I don't think it's going to happen. Now look, I'm up for it. I'm down for it. I wouldn't mind seeing, personally me, I wouldn't mind seeing an R-rated Blade or an R-rated Deadpool in the MCU. I wouldn't mind seeing that at all. I'm totally down for it. But Bob Iger thinks on a different level than we do, which is why Bob Iger has crafted the Disney empire to being by far the most dominant force in the movie industry today, because he's smarter than you and me. We don't like to think about other people being smarter than us. Bob Iger is smarter than you, and Bob Iger is smarter than me. And that's just the level he thinks on. And you know what? If Kevin Feige says, I can make a PG-13 Blade work and still make it edgy and still make it violent, and I can make that work. If Kevin Feige says that, then I'm going to give Kevin Feige the benefit of the doubt. Again, is it impossible? Nope, not impossible. Let's be clear. It's not impossible. But if we're going on what evidence we have, what's the evidence? Alan Horn says an R-rated Deadpool is going to be in Fox. Bob Iger says we're not going to have R-rated material in the MCU. It's got to be under a different brand. And now Kevin Feige says we're going to have a Blade in the MCU. Logic says that means it's going to be PG-13. So not impossible, but I'll be really surprised. I'll be totally shocked and surprised if they do. But you know, I think we as fans got to get over this thing that if in order for it to be good, it has to be rated R. I don't buy into that at all. The Dark Knight was a PG-13 movie, and a lot of people consider it to be the greatest comic book film of all time. Most of the greatest comic book films of all time, other than maybe Logan, are PG-13 movies. So I think it's okay. Possible? Yes, but highly unlikely. Highly unlikely. At least that's the way I see it. Victor Gonzalez writes, what if Thor and Jane switch bodies? Would you be opposed to that? It'll be fun to see Chris act like Jane for part of the movie. You know, somebody else asked me that the other day, Victor. It's kind of like a Freaky Friday scenario, right? That, I got to tell you, when I first heard that notion, I thought, well, that's stupid. But then I thought about it for a second. I thought, understanding this is Taika Waititi, and he could probably do something pretty fun and pretty funny with that notion. Yeah, maybe. Yeah, maybe. Look, I don't think that's what they're gonna do, Victor. But if they did, that forgives a lot of things. If she's now Lady Thor because she's actually Thor in Jane's body, that could be really funny and it solves a lot of the problems, and it could be great. Again, I don't think that's what they're doing, but I like the idea. If they do end up doing that, I'd be interested in it. I'd like to see what they would do with that. All right, Estevel writes, I'm surprised nobody talks about the movie services like A-List as a variant in the box office debate. I paid 3 times to watch Avatar in 2009. Today with A-List, I paid nothing to watch Endgame 3 times. It is a variant, but remember, it's not like A-List doesn't have 50 million subscribers right now, right? If I look at it, I believe it's under 1 million. So let me just double check this right now. If I go over here and look up, what am I looking up? Number of AMC A-List subscribers. Okay, let's see what it says here. All right, just recently, at the beginning of the summer, AMC A-List hit 800,000 members. Hit 800,000 members, which is a lot. It might be at 1 million by now, but that's 1 million. It's not like it is like everybody's got A-List. So it has an impact, but I'll tell you what, Estevel, at some point, if things like A-List, once the Regal one launches and gets rolling, and once all the theater chains start having this thing, and that starts getting more and more popular, then it's going to become something you really got to take into consideration. But as of right now, it's still small enough that it's not really worth making a part of the conversation as a whole. So it'll get there, though. You're right. It'll get there, and it will become a serious part of the conversation at some point. All right. Let's see. Atray Gaming just sends in a super chat to be supportive. Thank you, Atray Gaming. Ryan Lohner writes, just saw a movie that really deserves to be better remembered. Clint Eastwood's Absolute Power. Worth it just for the Unforgiven reunion with Hackman. First of all great movies. When I think of Clint Eastwood, though, Ryan, to be honest with you, and you raised some good ones. When I think of Clint Eastwood and a movie that really needs to be better remembered, it's Firefox. The one about when he has to steal the secret Russian plane. That's the one to me. And it doesn't get a lot of love. And I loved that movie. I thought that movie was great. So that's one that I think about a lot. And just in general, Ryan, people need to watch more Clint Eastwood movies, just in general. All right. KW Garrett writes, do you own Felipe the Sentient Dancing Microphone as an IP? Example, could Rob Burnett just go and make Timmy the Dancing Microphone without your permission? Technically, that's actually an interesting copyright question. The answer to that question is, have I filed copyright on that? No, but I can prove ownership because I have video evidence of me establishing that for the past number of years. So, legally speaking, even though I haven't filed for patent, I have visual evidence that I actually established this character and blah, 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 blah. So no, Rob and nobody else can just suddenly go, so-and-so, the Sentient Dancing Microphone movie. If they did, I'm getting paid because there's plenty of evidence. That's why a lot of times there used to be this old thing where if you wrote a screenplay, one of the best ways to just protect your screenplay. I mean, now you can register your screenplay with the WG and whatever, but one of the old tricks used to be put the screenplay in a sealed envelope, mail it to yourself so that the post office officially postmarks a date on it. And then therefore you can always say, I had that. I don't know how well that holds up today, but yeah. But anyway, I'm good. I'm covered. Samuel C137 writes, so I'm more interested in how they got Portman back than what they'll do with her. Dump truck of money, promising her a role that doesn't suck. Well, I don't think it took a lot of convincing, to be honest with you. I mean, look, Natalie Portman got in fairly early in the MCU, right? And now she's sitting back and she's seeing all these other Academy Award winners now lining up to be a part of the MCU. You're seeing people like Sir Ben Kingsley in the MCU. You're seeing people like Robert Redford in the MCU. You worked with Anthony Hopkins in the MCU. We're seeing now guys like Mahershala Ali, Academy Award winner Brie Larson. You're seeing all the who's who. Benedict Cumberbatch is in that. You're seeing a who's who of all your peers, not just lining up to be in these movies, but these movies are the most dominant force in Hollywood. I think you'd be interested in coming back. I honestly don't think they had to twist her arm too much. I don't think they had to twist her arm too much at all. Now, she has become a prestige actress. Like, she appears in films now that get Oscar consideration. But there's nothing that says you can only do one or the other. If she can put out movies that gets her Academy Award recognition and put out movies that make her huge money and her big blockbuster pop cultural hits, absolutely. I don't think they had to twist her arm too much. I'll be honest with you, Samuel. I don't think they had to twist her arm much at all. All right, Curtis Lopez writes, 1 of 2. John, go and see The Farewell with Awkwafina. It's moving, emotional, funny, and it's my favorite movie of the year so far. It's at AMC Burbank 16. Hurry up and watch it before it leaves. I have heard nothing but good things about this movie. That's the one with like all like older Chinese women, right? Other than Awkwafina. I've heard nothing but wonderful things about this movie. So Ann and I actually talked about it last night. Briefly, we were looking at what's playing at AMC and we're like, we should go see something. And we can't go tonight. We got a concert to go to tonight, but I think we are going to try to go see it because I've heard nothing but glowing things about it, Curtis. So thank you for bringing that up. All right. Let's see. Mark Team writes, I can't wait for the Witcher series. As a fan of the books and games, this is one of my favorite stories and characters. The tangibilization feels good. I'm telling you what, even though I wasn't blown away by the trailer, you guys know I've been excited about this thing ever since they first announced it. I love Henry Cavill. So I love the fact I really want him back as Superman. But if he can't come back as Superman, I'm looking forward to seeing him in this. I'm with you, my friend. I'm very excited to see how this thing turns out. I'm just waiting now for a release date announcement. All right. Andrew Christie writes, I've lost interest in the Arrowverse, but I'm excited to hear Brandon Routh will be returning as Superman for Crisis. I will be watching that crossover event for sure. Your thoughts? I like the Arrowverse. Now, I'm hit and miss on Arrow. I used to be in love with it, then I really hated it for a while, and now I'm kind of lukewarm on it. Always loved Stephen Amell in it, though. But I've always loved The Flash, even though I wasn't really big on the season with DeVoe. But this past season was much better, I thought. But overall, I really do love Flash. I love Black Lightning. I wish they were incorporating Black Lightning in more. You guys know what I think of Supergirl, so whatever. But in general, I feel pretty positively about the Arrowverse in general. But I am very intrigued. I love Brandon Routh. I think Brandon Routh is terrific. And I've had a chance to meet and chat with Brandon Routh. He came to one of my parties once, and I had a really good chance to just stand around and talk with him for a while. Super nice dude. I think he's tremendous talent. I love seeing it when he pops up in things. Zack and Miri Make a Porno. God, he's a small role in that, but so funny in that. Right now, I don't have a real clear picture, Andrew, of how big of a role this Superman will be. If it'll be just small, if it'll be a little bit more significant. So it's hard for me to get too tremendously excited, but just the idea of seeing Brandon Routh in the Superman outfit again, particularly if it's a Kingdom Come Superman outfit, then I can't help but be a little excited about that. I'm not getting too excited till I know how big and significant of a role it is, but I gotta admit, it makes me kind of happy. It does make me pretty happy, man. All right. Jonathan Teft writes, the one scene in the Lion King remake that I thought was better than the original was when Timon and Pumbaa sing Lion Sleeps Tonight. That was great. I thought there were a couple of scenes that were better in the remake. The scene, we talked about this yesterday, the scene where Simba is talking to Scar and says, yeah, hey, one of these days I'm going to be king. You're going to have to do what I tell you. You know, all that kind of stuff. Oh my God, that was palatable. I thought that was better. The Lion Sleeps Tonight thing, I agree with you. That was a better scene in this one. There are a couple I thought were better than there were in the original. Overall, the original is better. I mean, this Lion King isn't the pure, unfettered perfection of the original 94 animated film, but it's great. I love this Lion King so much. Patricia T writes, any news on World War Z 2? Love the first one. The last I heard, it got bumped again. The last I heard. Now, they've gone back and forth on this a little bit. It's gone back and forth. But the last time I heard was that it might be on the shelf. It might be on the shelf, if I'm remembering correctly. And I might not be. I might not be remembering correctly, but... And you know what? I really like the first one, too. That's a great example of where reshoots really saved a movie. Kind of like Solo. Reshoots saved that movie. I think World War Z was saved by the reshoots. I've been really looking forward to another one, but we just never got around to getting it done. Jonathan Teft writes, the new scene with Scar and Sarabi after Scar becomes king is also, I agree. Yeah, that one is really good. I love the fact that they went a little bit more into this version about the dynamic of Scar now being king. And they gave a little bit more interactions between him and Sarabi and the other lions. I thought that was a nice move. I thought that was a pretty good move on their part. I agree with you on that, Jonathan. All right, Ben Rayner writes, over under 50% Tom Welling reprises Clark Kent in Crisis. I'm going to go under 15%. But now remember, like, him and Stephen Amell were buddying up, and now they're kind of business partners together in the winery or whatever. So it's possible. I still think unlikely enough that even though 15%, Ben, is a pretty low number, I'll still take under that, but it's not impossible. It's not impossible. Can you imagine how excited people are going to get if they hear that Tom Welling is going to be appearing in the Arrowverse? People would lose their minds. Michael Pacheco writes, Affleck was the bomb in Phantoms, yo. I mean, a little bit of Jay and Silent Bob right there. Nice callback, my friend. By the way, there's a Jay and Silent Bob sequel trailer just dropped as well, which looks pretty good. Tito Macchiato writes, one of two. The MCU holds 7 of the top 15 biggest box office movies ever in Brazil, including the top 4 with the last 3 Avengers and Captain Marvel. We're consistently the 5th biggest market behind the US, China, South Korea, and the UK. Marvel Studios should think of that when scheduling world tour promotions. Well, here's the thing, Tito. Considering that they're already the biggest movies there without needing to do world tour promotions there, it kind of tells me that they don't need to. I mean, it sounds like you guys in Brazil are already a very, very strong, loyal, active fan base there. So when you're doing, like, think of it in political terms. When you're campaigning, you don't go to the neighborhoods that you're already super popular in. You go to the neighborhoods that you need a bump in popularity, right? Like, if you're already super, super popular in this one neighborhood and you're going to win all the votes there, you don't need to go and spend a lot of time campaigning there. You got to go and campaign in the place that you really need to get an increase in attention. And it sounds to me like you guys down in Brazil, the fans in Brazil, are already a very, very strong fan base. And if that's true, then maybe you need to, if you're Marvel, maybe you need to focus your efforts a little bit more in places like China and whatever, where there's a lot of room for growth still. So that's a possibility as well, Tito. That's a possibility as well. Interesting numbers. Thanks for sharing that with me, man. All right. Jerome writes, hey, John, could the mutant be a result of the snap/blip as they were bringing back by a mutated human? No, I don't think so. I mean, look, anything is possible. But if you introduce, here's the problem with that, though. First of all, that makes no sense because, like, that would mean that the power of the gauntlet was actually really limited. So I don't think that has anything to do with it. But if you bring the mutants into the MCU because of that, you've just wiped out all of the lore of mutants. You've wiped out all of the X-Men mythology. If you say mutants just started now, if you're saying they just started now, then that wipes out all of the rich history of what the mutants are. I don't have a better solution. That's why Kevin Feige and his creative team are taking their time with this, but I really don't see that being the way that they do it because it just undermines too much stuff. You know what I mean? It's a C. Because then it's like, oh, then why don't half of humanity come back with green skin since it was a guy with a green skin, Sam? You see what I mean? So I really don't think that has anything to do with it. And again, I think it would be a bad idea because it undermines and takes away all the mythology of it. So I don't see that being the way they go, my friend. I don't see that being the way they go. All right, Cobra writes, sorry, John, I hated the new Lion King. Well, hey, that's what it is, man. There are people who hate The Godfather. There are people who hate, Pulp Fiction. There are people who hate The Avengers. There are people who hate whatever. I mean, that's the subjectivity of film. We're not going to agree on all the movies, and that's totally fine. I loved it. I thought it was amazing. Carmen Cabrera writes, hi, Mr. C and guests. Do you think the new Disney Plus shows are going to be better than Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.? Oh, God, it better be. Because to me, that show was not good at all. I completely agree with you, Carmen. I as much as I love Clark Gregg, that dude can do no wrong, in my opinion. He's amazing. And I love the Agent Coulson character. I just don't think they've ever written a good show around him. I think Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is a steaming pile of garbage. I really do. All due respect for those of you who like the show, that's awesome. I celebrate that you like it. That's great. But I desperately wanted to like that show, and I thought it was terrible from day one. Just terrible from day one. Anyway, these Netflix or these Disney Plus shows actually have Kevin Feige overseeing them. Kevin Feige was never involved with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Kevin Feige was never involved with the Netflix series. Kevin Feige is directly involved. These are his properties on Disney Plus. So yes, Carmen, I really do believe that these Disney Plus shows will be infinitely better than Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. because my God, how could it get any worse? And partially because it can't get any worse, but also because Kevin Feige is actually giving direct oversight to these ones now. Now, does that guarantee these Disney Plus shows are going to be great? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Doesn't guarantee it. But it gives them a good head start. All right. Hector Rios writes, thoughts on Sunshine by Danny Boyle. 7 out of 10 for me. Yeah, I'm not, honestly, probably my least favorite Danny Boyle film. Now, I don't hate it. But yeah, I just had a lot of issues with it. Probably my least favorite Danny Boyle film. Q Horton writes, Mr. Campea, fan since the AMC days. Thank you so much, Q Horton. Just wanted to thank you for putting The Big Short on my radar. Loved it. Next up on my list, Won't You Be My Neighbor? Double thumbs up for that. Yeah, Big Short is really cool. Now, it's a movie. We talked about this the other day. The Big Short is a film that you have to keep your eyes on the screen because it throws so much information at you, both didactically and narratively, that if you blink for a minute, you can kind of get lost a little bit. There's so much information that's thrown at you. You got to pay attention every single second you're watching that movie. But if you do, there is a reward. And it's a really satisfying movie to me, and I'm glad you enjoyed it, Q Horton. So, and thanks for watching since the AMC days, man. I appreciate that. Evelyn writes, Joker was just confirmed to be in the Toronto Film Festival. Yeah, I was reading about that this morning. The Joker will be going to the Toronto Film Festival lineup. WB really does have faith in the quality of the film, and my hype for it keeps going up. I agree. They have done Warner Brothers, which is a studio that I have traditionally criticized a lot for not showing more confidence in their properties. They are going above and beyond with Joker. They're screaming publicly, we love this film. This film is great. We'll be the judge of that, but at least they're showing confidence in their film. And I love that. I think it's something Warner Brothers needs to do more of. And by taking it to these high profile, first of all, getting a guy like Joaquin Phoenix to agree to be in it, taking it to these high profile festivals, I think it's great signs. Now, it doesn't guarantee the movie will be good, but it's definitely a good sign. All right, Give Luigi a Ring writes, behold, from the foot of Feige, Jesse's dick hair. By the way, you guys remember yesterday that I was talking about, Marvel fans and Star Wars fans and Harry Potter fans and DCU fans and whatever have a tendency to just scream at anything that comes out that's MCU related as the best thing ever. And I said, Kevin Feige could have came out on stage at Marvel Hall H, taken his shoe off and held up his bare foot and just said, behold the foot of Feige, behold, kneel before the foot of Feige. And people would have said it's the greatest thing ever. Because that's what fan bases do. All of them. Star Wars fan bases, DCU fan bases, Marvel fan bases. Well, somebody on Twitter, I got to bring this up, sent me this. Beware the foot of Feige. Somebody put this together for me and sent this in, which I think is just gold. Me and Ann saw this morning. We just laughed a lot at it. So thank you to whoever sent that in to me on Twitter, because I thought that was really funny. All right. Let's see. Murray Reich writes, I saw your recent Simba tweet, and all I got to say is justice for Scar. So if you don't know what he's talking about, let me see if I can bring it up here. I'm sure I can. All right, here it is. I'll bring it up. This is what I don't know why this just hit me, but I put this out earlier this morning. A simple edit of The Lion King showing Simba singing I Just Can't Wait to Be King while Mufasa is getting trampled to death suddenly makes the movie very dark. I don't know why I find that so funny, but I do. Anyway, so all I've got to say is hashtag justice for Scar. That's right. Scar was actually the hero of the Lion King story. There you go. Trying to save the pride from a diabolical usurper in Simba. Avery Zavala writes, favorite sibling actors, mine would have to be the Francos, together or separate. They never fail to make me laugh. Their personalities are just infectious. I really do like the Franco brothers, but I gotta say, the most talented acting brother pair, I believe, in the history of Hollywood, is Rafe and Joseph Fiennes. The Fiennes. Not to be confused with the Fine brothers of YouTube and React fame. But yeah, Joseph and Rafe Fiennes. Joseph Fiennes right now, well, of course, he starred in the Academy Award winning film Shakespeare in Love. He is just one of the world's best actors. And right now you can see him in Handmaid's Tale. He plays the commander in Handmaid's Tale. He is one of the world's best. He's a top, I believe Joseph Fiennes is a top 25 actor on the planet. Then there's his brother, Rafe Fiennes, who may very well be a top 10 actor on the planet. Of course, a lot of people know him as Voldemort in the Harry Potter films, but he is simply one of the world's greatest actors. These two guys together, yeah, as a brother pair, I got to say, I think that's probably, and I love the Franco brothers, but I got to go the Fiennes brothers all day, every day. Avery Zavala writes, Tom Hanks come close to Daniel Day-Lewis as the greatest? I don't know. See, the thing is, Tom Hanks is one of the all-time greats. No debate. Tom Hanks is absolutely one of the all-time greats. But Daniel Day-Lewis is just on such another level. You know what I mean? Like, he's just such on another level that it's hard for anybody else to get too terribly close to him. So to me, it's like Daniel Day-Lewis and then everybody else. And in that upper echelon of everybody else, in that top echelon, definitely Tom Hanks is in there. But I don't know if he's close to being the greatest of all time. He's one of the all-time greats, but I don't think Tom Hanks is the GOAT. He's one of the greats, but I think that GOAT title is very, very securely in the hands of Daniel Day-Lewis. I think it's going to be a very, very long time till somebody comes along and changes that. All right, Frank Van Wardhuizen writes, Mordo going to be in Doctor Strange 2? Didn't hear his name. Yeah, well, here's the thing about the panel. The panel didn't give all the details about all of these movies. I suspect, Frank, and I have nothing to bank this up with, I suspect that Mordo will be in Doctor Strange 2. And just because they didn't mention him in the panel, not a big deal. They didn't give all the details about all these things away. So I'm guessing that he will be. I don't know that for a fact, but I'm willing to put $5 on it that he'll be in there, I think. Pool of Dead writes, WandaVision leads to Doctor Strange 2, House of M MCU version. Wanda may be the villain in Doctor Strange. Obviously, it'll be different than the comics like Civil War. Yeah, I don't think... You know, it's funny, Rob and I were talking about this off camera. I don't... And he doesn't suspect either. We don't suspect they're going to go House of M. I don't think they're going to go in that direction. But the notion of Wanda maybe being the villain, that is an idea. They probably won't, but it's an idea I'm getting more and more on board with. Because we were talking about on one of the shows yesterday, when you watch Wanda, she has been getting darker and darker. And when you get into Endgame, the way, now obviously she's got a lot of pain, but the way she talks to Thanos, you took everything from me. I don't even know who you are. You will. I mean, that sounds a little bit like super villain origins to me. I'm not saying that's what they're doing. I don't even think that's what they're going to do. But oh my goodness, she comes across as darker and darker. And when Kevin Feige said WandaVision on Disney Plus will then lead directly into Doctor Strange, what if WandaVision ends with WandaVision going over the cliff and going over the edge and going full-blown dark side? And now Doctor Strange is like the only person who can deal with her. Again, I'm not saying that's what they're going to do, but I'm buying into that notion a little bit more every day because to me it sounds really intriguing. Let's see here. We're just going to take a few more minutes here. Charles A. writes, release Snyder cut of yesterday's John Campea show. If you mean like the companion video, yeah, there is a Snyder cut of that companion video. Sorry about that. By the way, so here's what happened. I tried to do one of the companion videos yesterday from my treadmill because, you know, I need to get in 5 miles every day. So I decided to kill two birds with one stone and try doing the companion video on the treadmill. Unfortunately, with the webcam I was using, it created a problem where the video and audio went completely out of sync with each other, and it ended up being unusable. So I put it up with a static picture of myself over it, so the audio sync wasn't an issue. I'm going to try it again today. I like the idea, because I'll tell you what, in the 1 hour that it took me to do that companion video, I got in 3 miles. I got in 3 miles on my treadmill while I was doing that. So I think I'm going to try it again today with a different camera and see if because we're obviously going to have some leftover questions here today. So I'm going to do a companion video a little bit later. And I'm going to try it from my treadmill again with a different camera, and we'll see if that one works out any better. Let's see. JB Bonifacio writes, theory, the Eternals are the next big bad. I don't think so. I don't think so. Not with Kumail Nanjiani. That just doesn't scream villain to me. So I'm going to guess no, but I'll tell you what, JB, it's outside the box thinking. That is outside the box thinking. So I like the way you're going with that. All right, guys, listen, that's it. We've now gone over 2 hours today. That will do it for today. But listen, for all the rest of you, Lennox Clark, Nerd Guy, better username available, Holland Love all the way down. Do not worry, I am going to be doing a companion video this afternoon, getting to all of the rest of the questions. There are a few left here. I'm going to get to all of the rest of the questions a little bit later today. Just keep your eyes open for the companion video a little bit later this afternoon, and you will see your questions get answered. All right, guys, that will do it for today's installment of the John Campea Show. I don't know why the timer's on Erin right now. Let's come over to me. Well, Erin's much prettier than me, but anyway. You know, it's funny, even with a blank screen, Erin is still prettier than me. There you go. That'll do it for today's installment of the John Campea Show today, guys. Thank you so much for being here. Guys, thanks so much for being a part of the film fan community where we can get together, talk about the things we love, and debate and have disagreements and say things that we don't agree with each other on. It's part of being the film fans. It's part of what makes it being fun. And thank you guys for fostering and being a safe place that we can all do that together. So I thank you for that. Thank you to Rob and Erin, who were here a little bit earlier today. Rob and Chris Carr will be in tomorrow to join me. Make sure you guys come back and join me then. Of course, Erin will be back on Thursday as well. And thank you guys who sent in all the live questions, not just for giving us fun things to talk about, but you also support the channel while you're doing that. And all of us here, thank you deeply for that. All right, guys, that'll do it for me for now. Thanks so much for being here. My name's John Campea, and until our next video, bye-bye.